All right, we're live.
So I'm calling the advisory committee meeting to order on April 28th at 7:32 p.m.
All right, we're live.
Hi, everyone. Hello, hello. I see Andrew Mills already in the audience. So Andrew, we weren't going to start with CPC till about 8:30. It may be a little bit before in case you don't know that, in case you want to do something else for 45 minutes. So I'm just letting you know. I think we're going to be a little bit early because we don't need 15 minutes for the chair report in minutes. So assuming Patty Fiore gets here, we should be ready for CPC probably about 8:15 or so. So I'm letting you know. Okay, we got a lot to do tonight. So we're going to postpone the minute approval to the meeting we're going to have before town meeting. I didn't have a chance to read the minutes from last week, and we still got the 3:24 minutes to approve for the joint meeting with the select board that are ready. So we'll do that. I think we should have plenty of time. So we're going to start, remember, at 5 o'clock at Algonquin, room TBD. We should know the room in the next couple of days, so we'll let you know what the room is because we've got to post an agenda with the room on there. And sometimes people join us, sometimes they don't. If you remember the special town meeting, November 1st, we had a few people that came and met with us. So I'm still hoping that we can get Michael Weishen to come to that meeting and talk about his 2 articles, but I have not heard back from him. I asked him and he didn't respond. He's been in Italy. All ready? So we're going to talk in more detail when we get to the section where we're going to vote on some more articles, talk about the budget, et cetera. But there have been some changes to the capital article, which we'll go into detail with when we get there. So I mean, this always happens. There's always changes up to the last minute. For the most part, they're good changes. One of them wasn't so good, but the rest of them are pretty good news. All right, so we'll talk in more detail about those shortly. I don't see Patty. Andrew, are you going to be the only one from CPC? Can you let us know? If you are, we'll just go ahead and get started with this one. So why don't you, yeah, I assume he's there.
Yeah, he raised his hand. I'll bring him up.
Yeah, man. Am I on?
Yep, we can hear you.
You are.
Yeah, no, Tim's coming too from recreation to talk about, I assume you want to talk about the recreation project?
We do. I mean, that's the only part. So why don't we put you back in the audience in for the moment and we'll watch for him to come. So we may have to go back to our schedule, which is to start with Patty Fiore first.
Yeah, that's no problem.
Okay. All right. So we'll see you shortly. Okay.
Well, Kathy, do you want to just talk about the budget while we wait for Patty?
I do. All right. So let's go ahead and start talking about the other articles we think we can vote on tonight. So Andrew and I talked about these earlier, and we think we're ready to vote on a few of them. And then possibly revote the Neary Building Committee sponsored, or excuse me, the article on the feasibility study for the Neary School. Okay, so let's start with the, we can't do SAP yet. We got to meet with them, so we can't do that one. Let's start with noise bylaw. Has everyone heard enough, think they've digested all they're going to digest as far as that one and ready to vote? Marcy?
I believe so. I haven't read the final version. I don't know if they took out that section 9, I believe it was, that Board of Selectmen had questions on. I haven't seen the final version. Do you know?
Right, so I've got, they did.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, that was a question I had, but I think I'm ready to vote. Yeah.
Okay.
Marcy, if you want, we can wait till town meeting. That's fine too, if you want to have time to read it.
I've read it in the past, so I don't know if others have, but
The other thing we're going to do tonight, everyone, is we're going to, for those articles that are substantive articles that are probably going to receive a lot of discussion at town meeting, we are going to assign people to basically represent the pro and the con if they are articles that we did not vote on unanimously. So there'll be one person who voted nay that will represent the nays and one person who voted yay that represents the yays on those that we think we could get questioned and asked to expand further. And it's not unlikely that if someone sees a vote up there that says 5-2 or whatever, that they want to see, what the two people thought that voted against it. So we'll decide who wants to do it. We're not going to draft, you'll raise your hand. But we do want everybody to be prepared and not, as far as what you want to say before town meeting. Okay, now, let's see, Adam is listening in his car, I think. Tim, are you here? So Mr. Martell, are
Sorry.
you ready
Yeah,
to vote?
I'm here, Kathy.
Okay, are you ready to vote on the noise bylaw?
Sure, let's do it.
Eric,
All right.
are you ready to vote?
Yeah, I'm ready to vote.
Okay, and I'm pretty sure AP is, okay. So AP, you want to do the motion?
I move that the advisory committee supports Article 26 at the annual town meeting.
And can you just add to it what the article is so we don't get confused if numbers
Yep,
change?
Article 26, noise. They don't call it noise bylaw, it just says noise.
Okay, that's good enough. We know what noise is. Okay, second. Okay, Marcy seconded. Claire. Any further discussion of Article 26 before we vote?
I would just, if anybody from the noise bylaw committee watches this, great work, and thanks for all the hard work and many hours you put into getting it to this point.
Yep, we should make sure we do thank them in case they're not listening tonight. Okay, roll call vote. Eric.
Aye.
Cook is aye. AP.
Aye.
Marcy.
Nay.
Tim.
Aye.
So that's, and Adam, can you hear us? Yeah.
You're off mute, Adam, so. We can't hear you if you're trying to talk.
And I'm assuming you're driving, so you probably don't have much choice as far as what to do here. So we can't hear you at all. So we're going to have to count you as a abstention for the moment. We'll come back to this. If you're back on later and we can hear you, we can revote this one so we can get your vote in. But Claire, right now it's 1, 2, 3, 4 in favor, 1 nay, and 1 abstention. 4, 1, 1. Okay. All right, so we got that one voted on. Patty Fiore is here now, so let's bring her over because we're only 5 minutes before we do it. So let's go ahead and bring Patricia Fiore over. Eric.
En route.
You guys hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so Adam, do you want to vote? Can you vote on the noise bylaw?
So I was a nay on the noise bylaw.
Okay. Okay, so Claire, did you hear that? So it's 4 in favor, 2 opposed. Or not in favor.
Thank you.
Okay. All right.
So Kathy, did
So
you
you
want,
brought over Andrew Mills. You want to bring over Patricia Fiore, not Mr. Mills.
Kathy, when did
Yeah.
you want to discuss who's going to speak for each side of the argument?
When we get to that section, I just went ahead and did this, Tim, to fill a little time before we started because we were ahead of the schedule. So we're going to do that when we get it. We're going to talk to Patty. We're going to talk to CPC, and then we'll be ready. And personnel. Sorry, and personnel. Okay, 33, 34. Hey, Patty.
How are you?
We are fine. We are fine. So everyone, this is Patricia Fiore. She goes by Patty. She's been involved in several matters in the last few years as far as the town goes. So she is a regular attendee of town meeting and stays very involved. So she is sponsoring 2 separate articles, number 33 and number 34. So she's here tonight to basically explain what the purpose of the articles is, what caused her to want to do this, et cetera. And then we'll decide later if we want to vote on them tonight. I want to wait to town meeting and hear more of what town meeting says about them. So how's that, Patty, for an intro?
That sounds fine. So I guess we're talking about Article 33 first.
Yeah.
This is very short and sweet. I think you all know why that article is on here based
Well,
on.
go ahead and explain, because I think we do, but go ahead and just, pretend we don't and start from scratch. Well, what caused you to want to propose this article?
So my one and only goal is accountability and transparency within local government, within any government, but within our local government. And one of the areas I feel that is sorely lacking is with the DPW. I think this entire project that has taken place at St. Mark's is a abysmal debacle. And frankly, the town should be ashamed of how it's handled it. The fact that our superintendent of the DPW went ahead and wrote her own license agreements that were then approved by the Board of Selectmen and St. Mark's. The construction was started with the expectation that 9 months later, the town would approve easements at town meeting. I think that how she got the grant was questionable, to say the least. But the real problem is that she can't explain where the money goes to or where it's coming from. I've had numerous emails with her asking for a project breakdown for the St. Mark's, I don't know what everybody is calling it these days, but basically the intersection being moved, the parking lot on town land that will be for use by St. Mark's, and the park on St. Mark's land that I guess is for use by everyone. So I've asked her for a project breakdown of how much that project has cost to date, how much it is anticipated cost, and where that funding is coming from. If it's the grant, taxpayer funds, or Chapter 90 money. And after a number of delays, whatever, I mean, her answer is she can't. That it's all piled into one enormous project and bidding process, and she can't give me a price. I don't think that's not the way people run a company. That's not the way we should run a DPW. It's not the way we should run a town. There does not appear to be any proper oversight over the DPW, and I think there needs to be. I mean, I think this probably needs to happen for other departments and committees and stuff, but I think right now we have a serious issue with the credibility, reliability, and honesty, maybe, of how the DPW is running. I can't answer those questions because we don't have availability to any of the numbers. So that's what needs to change. And I am certainly willing to listen if anyone else has a better suggestion on how to get that done. Because like I said, my only goal here is, for God's sake, not for me to stand up in a public forum and speak, because that is not what I am good at. But my only goal is to create, or to make sure, ensure that there is transparency and accountability within our government. This is a department that should work for me as a taxpayer, as well as you as taxpayers. And I think we deserve those answers. End of story.
And so let me just read the article to everybody. It's short as far as what Patty's asking for. So she's asking for a new chapter to be created in the code that would provide a report by the advisory committee, us, that will provide analysis, review, and opinion to town meeting annually, This report should provide a complete breakdown and itemization by project and date for money spent by the DPW during the previous calendar year, funded by the town budget, and also Chapter 90 or any other revenue source. So basically, account for all the money spent on by the DPW period. So that's
Maybe
the,
it's not clear, but I don't think the onus is upon the advisory committee to create that report. I think the onus is upon maybe it's not written properly. I'm not a lawyer or anything. I think the onus should be upon the Department of Public Works to track outgo, ingo, and projects in a successful way that can be provided at any time on any project to anyone.
you do say
I'm only-
provide. You're right. You don't say right. You say provided. So
Yeah, I'm only asking for advisory because you guys deal with the budget and the financial aspects of running the town, to act as an intermediary between the DPW and someone like me who has no clue about all the numbers that make up the budget. I'm just looking for advisory to offer advice on whether that money is being properly spent and wisely spent.
So everybody's going to have a chance to talk, Patty, and ask you questions, but let me just, did anybody see Candidates Night last night? I know, no, well, Marcy was there. One of the things that was talked about was the Public Works Planning Board, which was created by town meeting a long time ago. And the purpose of it was to oversee basically the DPW. It's appointed by the moderator. He appoints it's five-person board. 3 positions are appointed by the moderator and 2 are appointed by the planning board. By any analysis of what has been done by that board the last few years, you conclude the same thing. They're not active. They don't meet very often. When they do meet, they set the transfer station sticker rate. That's about it. If that board were active and did what they were created to do, you should have a board that should be overseeing all of the DPW projects and, provide appropriate sounding boards and scrutiny of what's going on, but they don't. So one of the things that was discussed last night at the Candidates Night was how to fix that. And the conclusion last night was the only way to truly fix it, because select board don't have authority over that entity. Again, it's appointed partly by planning board, partly by moderator, is to ask both appointing authorities to basically put people on it that intend to reactivate that board so that it does what it's supposed to do. The alternative is to let capital actually be the oversight on all, at least capital projects. But there's more to the DPW than just capital projects, but that at least would take care of the road piece if they took that under their wings. And they will. They're already looking at things because no one else is. So we definitely do have a problem that needs to be solved as far as having oversight into projects. Because Patty, we can make sure a report gets written, but it's going to be after the fact, right? So it wouldn't stop. For example, the project that you don't like, we could just we could report on it, this is what happened, but it wouldn't change anything. It would be done at that point. So to create a process where you can have some oversight up front, either, I don't know what else we can do other than have capital do, the road piece of it, or try to encourage both the moderator and planning board to get people on that board that will do this.
Can I just speak to that for a second?
Yes.
I actually think both things are needed. If capital wants to take on that task, once it is a standing committee, if voted in at town meeting as a standing committee, I think that would be great, because that would provide oversight, as you said, before the beginning of the project, which in the planning stages is great, because we don't have anybody doing that. I also think that I, as a taxpayer, attending town meeting deserves to have an understandable way of how my money is being spent. And, why those decisions were made and how much they cost. In regard to the current planning, what is it called?
PWPB,
Yeah, what-
PWPB, Planning,
Okay, thank
Public
you.
Works Planning Board.
I actually spoke at some length with Paul Semino today, and we discussed this. And I basically asked him if he could fire his appointees, because the person that is listed as the chair of that committee is the person has verbally stonewalled having any addition. He has no, what's the word? He has no, it wasn't interest, but no interest in calling any meeting. And what I basically said is that if after this entire debacle of the last 6 months and listening to this and all the concerns about the DPW, if that committee has no interest in even calling a meeting to discuss it, they are not doing their job and should be replaced. The current chair of that committee is on there until 6/24, and also does not seem to be prone to absolve himself from chair and pass that on to somebody else.
What did Paul
Which
say
is-
when you talked to him?
He's in regard to this specific
Okay.
project.
Well,
He
when
said that
you asked if you could fire someone, what did he say?
he said that's a lot more difficult than it sounds. There was an issue a number of years ago where a person from another board was requested to be fired or whatever, and I guess, and that was a much more high profile than this. And he said it's a difficult thing to do. So it sounds like we're kind of stuck with this person until 6/24. I also want to make you aware of, if you look at the people that are on this committee, a number of them are past DPW employees or have a relationship to the DPW. So in my opinion, it's kind of like having the chickens watching the hen house. You know what I'm saying?
The Fox. Fox.
The fox. Thank you. There we go. Okay, wrong thing. But they're not the appropriate people to provide oversight for that department. So until those committee people can be replaced, something else has to be done, in my opinion.
Okay. AP, I'm going to start with you.
Sure. Hey, Patty, how's it going?
Thank you. Hi.
So in terms of just the article itself, what do you mean calendar year, or you mean more fiscal year?
No, they brought, whoever brought that up at the Board of Selectmen the other night, fiscal year is fine.
Okay.
And if I can garner the support of what the purpose of this is, which I said, to provide transparency and accountability, I am totally up to amending this, adjusting it, whatever you see fit. There's just one goal here. And I don't see how anyone can disagree that it's a bad goal.
Yep. Okay. I was able to watch the selectmen's meeting, so I think there was a lot of good that came out of that. So it sounds like between capital and kind of selectmen's ability to say we're not going to approve anything without it being vetted, I think that'll certainly help from the go forward basis. We have always dug into the numbers on advisory, at least since I've been here, and I think Kathy, even before I started, whoever the liaison would dig into the actual road fund and where it was at. I just don't know whether or not, for me, I don't know whether or not it needs to be a bylaw. I certainly think advisory can include it in their usual letter. I think we could have a road maintenance section and just talk about what, this year's funds or what the expenditures were in the past fiscal year and what it went to. But I do think that the most important thing is what it's going to be in the future. And I think capital is going to have a good handle on it, and that this article doesn't really cover it, but
that is if they are approved as a standing committee and take that part of it is put into their charge because it's not
But
exactly written that way.
It's
And they
already
can't-
today in their ad hoc.
Right, but and I'm not totally sure on this, but what I've been told is that is part of the reason it needs to be a standing committee versus an ad hoc committee because of the type of oversight that they are allowed to provide. And I forget what the exact wording I was told in regard.
I don't think so. I mean, part of their current charge is the ability to oversee capital items and anything over 10,000 and any project, they can look over. And when I was on capital, I looked at the road fund, and that was one of the reasons why we found some of this thing. I think just making it a standing committee just shows the fact that they want to be a standing committee and not ad hoc. But their charge doesn't.
I've talked to one or two members of capital planning, and I haven't seen anything progressing from that committee in regard to this in the last 6 months. So I'm not exactly sure. I mean, when should I expect to see that then? Because I think that the last 6 months, especially with this project at St. Mark's, has really been an abysmal mess. And like I said, if people haven't stood up by this point to change it within the system.
But I think this was approved by the selectmen prior to capital being founded. In fact, the original issue of the $1.3 million bid, wiping out the road maintenance fund, was what I brought up to Kathy. Kathy also brought up to the chair at the time, Marty Healy. So advisory and capital were watching it. But this wasn't a project that came before capital, right? This was already done prior to that, happening, and it's under the selectmen's purview.
The St. Mark's project was already done?
St. Mark's project. Because
That capital's been around
capital approved the funds without any project being there. There was no project there. And then at that point in time, it's up to the selectmen to decide what they want to do with the roads. And the project went to selectmen. Capital and advisory both saw that the project was going to wipe out the road fund, brought that to the attention of the selectmen, who dug into it, rejected that bid, and the subsequent bids until something came back that was within reason. But
I mean, there's still the whole question of you have this amount of money in your budget. So if you only have that amount of money in your budget, instead of doing some of the projects that have been on the agenda for years, you move an intersection that 1/50th, 1/100th of the people driving there use on a daily basis.
yeah, but
It
prior
was a
to the
decision.
current policy by the selectmen of having the decision to move forward to spend the Chapter 90 funds or the road maintenance funds, they had complete authority with no oversight to decide what needed to be done. It was completely up to the selectmen as the owners of the roads. Right now, they have a policy that capital should vet that prior to them voting, which I think covers our concern. I don't think, and then doing this a year after the fact on a report, which we could include this in our report for next week, Kathy, in terms of what we spent this year, if we have time, but.
Not
So
by
to
a
be clear,
project
Patty,
basis.
our bylaw requires us to write a written report to present to town meeting that basically includes a summary of the financial aspects of the town. So yes, we could include a section every year that talks about road money, DPW, but we're leaving out every other department too. We don't focus on every single department. We focus on the things we think we need to, like the risk assessment of the town as far as IT goes. You're going to see this year's report talks about the Board of Health, because we've had lots of issues with trying to get that budget in line with what we think it should be. So we certainly could every year, make sure that there's a section that talks about roads, but I still think the more important thing is to make sure that there is a structure in place to vet the potential projects up front. So we're not writing about a project that that blows up like this one has. Because at that point, all we're doing is basically rubbing salt in the wound. Yes, this is what happened here. So I think that the process that's now envisioned going forward should help solve this problem, which is not enough oversight on large projects that come under the jurisdiction of the DPW.
Right. As I said, I think there's two issues. And one is absolutely that oversight, which, I mean, it would be great if a public works planning board did that. It'd be great if capital planning could do that. The other issue is how that is reported, tracked, how that money is tracked and reported. And I think that has to come, to be properly done, it has to come from within the DPW. And I don't know whether there's a way to make that happen. I think that's still on the Karen Galligan's project book is, changing that intersection on Flag Road and Deerfoot to make it a T instead of the way it is. And I forget what the estimated cost on that was. Is it $2 million or something like that? I haven't spoken to one single citizen taxpayer that is in favor of that project.
Well, there's definitely a lot that aren't. Sometimes you don't know because the people in favor of it you don't hear from, and the ones that aren't, you do. So there definitely is opposition to that project, and that's part of this big overall contract that got signed almost a year ago. Okay.
And there's no way to change that. I mean, just, sidebar, speaking about that one specific project, that there's essentially no need now because Park Central is put on hold and nobody wants the project. It still has to move forward.
I don't know the
Kinda
answer to that. I
silly.
mean, you've got a signed contract. So I don't know what the answer is to that. But there is a whole lot of discussion of it because of the tree issues surrounding it, et cetera. There's people that live there that don't think it's going to solve the problem it's intended to, which is to make it safer because of the big trucks that go through there. There may be a truck exclusion put on that road one of these days. I don't know. So there's a whole lot of variables to figure this one out. AP, anything else before I go to Tim? Okay, Mr. Martell.
I'd like to pass for now, Kathy, if that's okay.
All right, you want me to come back to you?
Yeah.
Okay. Marcy.
Good evening, Patty.
Hi.
I was just pulling up the article because I wanted to reread it again. It's very short, as Kathy pointed out. And I did hear your presentation on select board the other night, which, so it was interesting to hear everyone's opinion and feedback there. And I was also at the meeting last night, the candidates night, where a little bit of this was brought up about the Public Works Planning Board. So thank you for reaching out to Paul Semino, because that was going to be one of my questions as to whether or not you felt this board, if they were active, would take care of what you're proposing here.
Not with the current staffing.
So that was my main question for tonight. I would offer that, and Eric here is the liaison with DPW, and Karen did come present to us. So I do agree a bit with Andrew and some of what Kathy says, which is, I think advisory does do some of this work, but I think that the intent or the spirit of what you're getting at is there's details missing, even though we're doing that work. And I experienced that myself, asking questions when DPW reported out to us. There was no specifics. You can't nail down the data. You don't attach dollars to projects. So in the spirit of that, I mean, I understand what you're trying to do. So I think that's all I have to say for now, but I appreciate you bringing it forward and coming to talk to us about it tonight.
Thank you. If I can just comment, one of the things that I found very frustrating with my communications with Karen Galligan, in that she was not able to provide any specific costs and or where that money was coming from in relationship to this project is that, as we all know, she specifically bid out this project. So I don't understand. You bid out a project, you already have that project that has been broken down into its elements in order to create that bid. You got bids in, but now once the money is spent, you have no idea that you can track it for me. That doesn't make sense. Or perhaps that's the way they do it, but that's not the way they should do it.
So Patty, I think we've got the number now. We've asked again and we've got a number. I don't want to talk about it tonight because I want to vet that number, but we do have a number now as far as the portion of that $2.5 million contract that relates to everything over by the park, moving the road, et cetera. I just want to make sure that the answer we got is the right answer, that we really do have the facts right and there's no confusion as to what that number is. So I've got a number now. I just want to vet it a little bit more, but I will give it to you once we're comfortable that it is and understand where it came from. So
But
there's
we did start talking about that, what, 2 months ago or something?
yes, we
So
did.
it's, I mean, can I just qualify by saying it's been pulling teeth for you to get that number? Is that really the way it should be?
It has not been as easy as it should be. The contract includes 4 different things. It's all kind of mushed together as far as quantities of, gravel, asphalt, et cetera. But we agree we should have a number, and I think we almost have that number. I just want to make sure that we've got the right number before I give it to you. Okay, Marcy, is that it? Go ahead.
Well, I want to say one other thing. I don't quite understand how the Public Works Planning Board can just choose not to meet. And I could tie this back because I feel like, Patty, there's so many things related to DPW and Public Works that wouldn't be included here just on the numbers, right? Like there's a lot of oversight that's really missing at large, and St. Mark's project really showed us that, how the trees were treated, were there any public hearings? No, about the project, there was no public hearing. So I guess my point is, when I've heard the Public Works Planning Board information presented, I think Deb DeMaria did a great job coming on the Board of Selectmen one evening, and she actually wrote a letter that outlines what this board should be doing. And I believe it's tied to a statute in Massachusetts. It's a state law, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm a bit confused about how they can't simply meet.
Or not
correct,
meet.
or meet or not meet. That's right, or not meet the intent of the law. So I guess that's the only other thing, Patty. I feel like a board like that would have more maybe teeth or meat on the bone than even a bylaw, because there's so much, which Kathy was mentioning, there's so much to what goes on with DPW that is, tied to the budget, but it's larger than that for me. So that's all my comments.
Thank you, Eric.
Yeah, I'll be fairly brief, and Patty, really nice to see you. And I'll just say, I appreciate the hard work and the care that you put into this, right? And all of this. I think that I'll 100% echo. I think more transparency is a good thing. I, generally speaking, I think I agree with what Andrew and Kathy have voiced, that I think my larger concern, right, is going into this and seeing that there's better oversight and better public debate, right? An explanation of where this money is going to be spent, where it's being proposed to spend. So I do think putting that in capital's hands is a really good thing. I agree that if we could have the oversight board actually doing some oversight. I think my biggest feeling here is that, to that point, and having for the first time, my first year on advisory, my first time being a liaison, try to, work to dig into the DPW, there's a lot there. And I think that trying to do that in a very short period of time, in a couple months, right, leading up to budget season, I think this is a year-round job, is my point. So what I'm trying to express is that I think the spirit behind what you're suggesting is wonderful. I'm fully supportive of us potentially receiving information and weaving this into part of our report to town meeting. But I think the real focus here for me is the accountability consistently ahead of projects as well as during execution, right? And I want to see accountability, but also I want to see support, right? I think that my little exposure has shown me how complicated right, the DPW operations are and these projects are, and doing them effectively in a municipal government is very, very challenging. So I do want to acknowledge that, right? I don't think this is just straight negligence. I think there's a lot here. And so I think where there's town members who are passionate, citizens who are passionate, can provide oversight and can provide support throughout the year, I think that's an important thing to foster. So my quick take is I appreciate the spirit. I'm very happy for advisory to put this into our report going to town meeting, but I think the work here that's going to change the equation and answer everybody's concerns is before money is spent, as well as throughout the process of money being spent. So I'll just leave it there.
Adam, can you hear us?
Yep, I can.
Hi. Do you want to ask Patty any questions?
I don't have any questions. I largely agree with most of my fellow advisory board members on the comments that they gave. Overall, I definitely agree with the intentions of this and the spirit of it. I do worry it could be a little bit redundant if there was a better functioning board. That does seem like it already exists. And even though I know the comment was made that it would be hard to make some changes to that board, you know, I do think that shouldn't be given up on so quickly. If that board's in place, I think we should try and leverage it rather than create redundancy. But clearly there's a need here. I don't know the full history for why DPW in particular seems to be singled out on this oversight, which I'd love to understand. Maybe that would be a question I would have just in general that we could take offline from this particular article. But overall, I agree with, I don't have anything new to add as far as points from what my fellow advisory board members made.
So it's my understanding that of the 5-member PWPB, Public Works Planning Board, that there are 2 positions that are up for reappointment at June 30th. Andrew, can you check that real quick? That's what was said last night. They only need 3 to, get this thing going. Sam Stivers will certainly vote for it to get it going, but he's one person right now. So he needs 2 other active people to get this board to basically start meeting and do some of the things we're talking about. So it may not be as hard as anyone thinks. If, when those, because remember, when someone's term is up, you don't have to reappoint them. So you can ask whoever the appointing authorities are in June, and I don't know which ones they are. It may be 2 planning board positions that are. That's Sam for those 2.
I think Sam was appointed by the planning board, correct?
He was. He definitely
So
was.
it's Susan Faust.
Okay, so
and
she's
James
up.
Harding.
All right, here we go.
up.
So here we go. Okay, so here we got 2. Once, so if we, so to me, the thing to do, Patty, the more that both the planning board and possibly, hear from people, is to ask each of them to appoint someone different if the 2 that are expiring aren't ready to step up and start meeting. So this really may be solvable sooner than we think. It doesn't have to necessarily wait till.
So there were a couple other comments he made to me in regard to this specific topic. And let me see if I can just remember what I was just thinking. So one is that he doesn't have people lined up in the works to volunteer. And I said, frankly, I think that's because 99.9% of the people in this town didn't even know this board existed, having not met in a few years and not stepping up to the plate when there's a big crisis on hand. And let's see, the other thing he said was that, I'm exhausted this week. My brain is not totally functioning. Go move on, and if I raise my hand if I think of it.
Okay, I do think there's a quicker solution than what we might have thought. Okay, so that's it. Okay, Tim, back to you as far as this article goes.
Yeah, I don't know why the Public Works Board is being bandied about, right? They're not appointed by the Select Board, correct?
Correct.
The town moderator and the planning board.
Yep.
They have no authority They have no purview, just like town meeting has no authority or no purview. The only people who can provide this information is the select board, and only if they feel like it. And that's
Provide what information?
whatever information you want from the DPW. The DPW reports up to Mark Purple, who reports to the select board. There is no oversight function in the town that can force the select board to do anything except for the Freedom of Information Act, which every citizen has. There is quite literally, even if you win this vote or you get the Public Work Planning Committee activated, the DPW, and we're talking about the DPW, I don't mean to pick on them, the select board, the DPW can say no. Don't feel like it.
Well, Tim, let me argue a little bit with you on that one. The advisory's got the authority to basically audit, get information that we want.
Not really,
And
Kathy.
maybe say, well, they could say no, but they don't, as a rule. You know, if we ask for something, we usually get it. So the information that she's asking for, I think, is gettable. I just still think the bigger problem is oversight over the projects before they get off the ground to make sure it really is the best use of the money. We have
Right.
limited road money, and so we've got to use it.
And I agree with you, Kathy, but this is, once the appropriation, and you know this, I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but I mean, once the appropriation is made, right, town meeting has no authority. The money can be spent however they want, right? And of course, the
Does that
following
mean-
year,
I don't have a right to know how the money was spent?
no.
Because technically,
Well,
that's all I'm really asking for in this, is to
So
get that
technically-
accountability.
outside of the Freedom of Information Act, the answer is no. The state gives you no authority. The state gives us no authority to demand information from the select board. If you don't like it, you can vote them out. There is no, unlike our federal government, we have our legislative branch has no oversight authority in our state constitution. There's nothing we can do. If we don't like what the selectmen do, we can, the select board can come to us. They can ask us for X money in any given year. And then if we appropriate it, they can then go ahead and do whatever they want with it. And if they break that trust, the understanding is that the town votes them out the following year. There is absolutely no mechanism in place to force the select board to provide this information if they're not willing. So, I mean, I do think that there are probably, I think everybody agrees with you on transparency. I think everybody wants a better process. I just think, I think there's one person sitting here right now who in a couple months can help you a lot, right, Kathy?
I think, Tim's right. I mean, even the advisory bylaws, there's no teeth, right? That says they have to provide us with things, but if they don't, the only thing we can do is a Freedom of Information Act request, which public records request, which is the same as any citizen can do. But I think this information is very readily available, right? Carla,
Hold on, guys. The bylaw, which is law, clearly says the advisory committee shall have authority at any time to investigate the books, accounts, and management of any department of the town, and the books and accounts of all departments and officers of the town shall be open to inspection of the committee and of any person employed by it. They say no, there's a bylaw that says they have to do this. So I don't see why you say.
Kathy, there's no MGL. We can't arrest them. We can't take them to court. Right? We asked town council this. They said, if they say, I don't care what your bylaw says, we're not going to give it to you. He said, the only thing we can do is do a public records request. And if they don't provide it within a timely manner because of that, we can go after them with a public records request. That's it.
So, yeah, the select board derives its power solely from the state. They are not, there's nothing, they don't derive any power from town meeting whatsoever. Therefore, any bylaw the town meeting passes can't impinge upon the executive authority granted to them by the state. We don't have the scope of authority to override what the state constitution says the selectmen's functions and power is.
I don't think that what I just read does that. I think it says we've got the right to this, period, by bylaw. So Patty, we're not going to go much further with this one tonight. I don't get into a discussion about what the advisory bylaw says or doesn't, but we hear you. We understand what has caused your concern. We think that the better answer is just to make sure that there is a mechanism in place to look at projects, big projects, not micromanager, but big projects, so that there is truly a vetting of those projects and make sure that they make sense, and that's the best use of the money, which I think is the better answer to this, rather than, because the report's not going to do anything but say this is what they did with it, and then it's too late. And we still write the report. So I'm not saying no. We're not saying no to what you're asking for. We're going to debate this later on. But I still think we've got to work on trying to at least recommend a process that works better in the future as far as vetting these big projects.
Yeah, I mean, Kathy, the report would be easy. Carla, can you send us a debit and credit report of these general ledger accounts?
Yeah.
Right. This is what's come in. This is what's gone out in the last, fiscal year.
It's the same thing with the reserve fund. We
It's
got to
by
account for it. We got to
project
show how
that's
it got used.
important. I mean, what we look at in the town warrant is a line item saying approve this much money for DPW. I'm asking for a project breakdown.
But accounting in terms of a fiscal year or a calendar year doesn't go by project, right? So and you can get the invoices that have been gone against a project that would then be part of the debits and credit out of the account, right? Each invoice is going to have a detailed time and materials or material breakdown, unit cost breakdown of the cost, right? So you have, this is how much has been spent this year out of that account, right? And each year road maintenance account is its own account, right? There's one for each year. You can see what's been spent out of each one of them, and what the invoices put against that, what's the detail of those invoices, but that's basically how the information comes through.
You could write a report that gives the big picture as to what projects got done, what roads got paved, where things are going. So you could write this report as far as really describing what the DPW did during the year as far as big stuff goes. I don't think there's any doubt of that. Okay, so Patty, I think we've probably gone as far as we can with that one. We will discuss it a little bit later and probably discuss it again before town meeting.
I mean,
Okay,
in any regard, if I can just say, in any regard, it sounds like there's movement forward in trying to create accountability from specifically within this department that was not moving anywhere 6 months ago. So that's a good thing.
And Patty, I would say everybody on this committee agrees with your concerns. I don't want to speak for everybody, but I think we all have similar concerns.
okay. Okay, so let's go to your second sponsored article, number 34.
So as Mr. Martell just said, a select board can say no, they don't feel like it. And that's what happened after a similar article was passed in 2019.
So why don't you describe that article? Because there's several people on this committee that are new to it and they may not have been at that town meeting. So why don't you describe the article you sponsored in 19?
Well, in 2019, the article as amended and approved was kind of a chunk of what the current article is. And it just really was there was a pilot committee already, an ad hoc pilot committee already on there that had not been active in 10 years. Well, 8 years. And it was really to instigate that committee being reinvigorated, repopulated, and not to necessarily be the one and only that goes and speaks with the schools, but to do the research to find out, what would be fair. I mean, I put a lot of time into this in 2019 to find out what exactly the services they are using in town are costing the rest of us, plus the added bit of how much residential real estate that they are buying, taking off of the tax rolls, and then the remaining taxpaying population has to support the cost of that to cover those taxes. And then what happened? So it was approved, and then the select board decided they didn't want to do anything with a committee of people. They were going to have a couple of people, couple of members of the select board, Board of Selectmen at the time, to get together and do their own discussions and negotiations with the school. They didn't need outside people. I think there was a little bit of an issue with open meeting law in regard to that. And so then they decided, well, they didn't need two people, they would just use one person, solve all the open meeting problems. I've lived in Southborough since 1989. So in that amount of time, there's been essentially very little to no progress made in this topic. And like I said, I think it deserves a lot of research. We have to, I probably talked to 15 other towns, either the town accountants or the treasurers, to find out how they dealt with the schools and what kind of remuneration they got from their schools. And I also spoke with people, our congressional representatives, in regard to the Massachusetts Tax Revenue Code and the somewhat of a loophole that allows them to take residential property off the tax rolls. And I think that's the kind of thing that needs to be done so that you can go in and speak intelligently to the schools and not just say, hey, look, we think you should give us more money, but that you have to be a, you know, kind of moral member of this community and help to support the services that you use. So in order to skirt around a little bit the issue of the select board choosing to say no, I understand the way to do that is make it a standing committee versus an ad hoc committee. So that's really just the basis of it. Beyond that, if you want to discuss the structure of who's on that board, I am very open to amendments on that. I understand you have a problem with the one line of advisory. That's
And we can't be on a
fine.
standing, we can't be on a standing committee.
right. So that's totally fine. Let's change it. Let's make it someone from the Board of Selectmen, since we think we're going to know somebody on the Board of Selectmen. It's fine. Again, that's the minutiae of the thing is not really, you know, of specific concern to me. It's that the job be completed, that the proper thing be done.
Okay, so before we get into this, AP, Tim, can we do this? Patty, have you talked to town council about this at all?
I haven't talked to town council. I talked to our town clerk before this was filed. But I guess we weren't specifically aware that there would be a concern about advisory. But like I said, I mean, let's adjust. I'm willing to compromise. That's what I said to the Board of Selectmen too. Let's adjust it so that it serves the right purpose legally and with the right people that are going to be able to do that. That's fine.
But, you know, remember in 19, the article did pass, and I forget the vote, but I think it passed fairly
Well, there
easily.
weren't, it was the last thing on the agenda and there wasn't a lot of people left, but yeah.
But it passed, right?
It
But that was basically an advisory article that basically asked the select board or Board of Selectmen then to do what the article said, but there was no, I mean, there was, you couldn't require it. You just had to ask. Marty Healy assumed the role of liaison from the select board to the two schools. And every year since then met with them and negotiated specific contributions from each school. This year, he just finished his negotiations. St. Mark's is going to pay $89,800, so almost $90,000, and Fiscal is going to pay $70,000. So every year it's gone up.
I don't think they're expected to pay $70,000 in this current year.
Well, they actually
I don't-
are. They're going to pay it, but you're right. I'm being a little bit cute with this. So yes, they are going to pay it this year, but it's going to count as 2 years. Because
I mean, they
they're basically
agreed
buying a truck and they want to, you
They,
can't buy
they
half a truck.
agreed, yeah, they agreed to pay $100,000 toward a fire truck, but then wanted that spread out over 10 years at $10,000 a year.
So you're right. The 60 is going, they're paying $10,000 toward the bond for the public safety building and 60 toward this truck. But you can't buy the truck in 2 parts. So they're going to pay it all in this fiscal year. But it's going to count as 2 years. Okay, so Tim and AP or anybody's helped me with this. Can town meeting do this? Can they actually require? I mean, this is a select board, the way it's written, a select board appointed committee. So here again, we're telling the select board what to do. I don't know that you can do
Actually,
that.
no, it wasn't to be a select board appointed committee.
Well, it says select board is, well, what I'm reading, it says select board. It says select board will appoint members of this committee.
Oh,
Consisting of.
right, because the standing committee has to be under the jurisdiction of elected, an elected official or elected board. So that was put that way so that the select board could continue that. If they want to maintain jurisdiction over it, that's fine. But if they choose not to and to do the same kind of maneuver they did last time, then another elected official or elected board could provide that jurisdiction.
AP.
I think you can create a committee. You know, again, the select board
The
doesn't.
legislature can create this committee.
Right.
No, yeah, town meeting can create a committee and, change a bylaw. The select board could decide not to appoint anybody to it, just like with any defunct committee. It does have the language in here that if they don't, another elected town official or elected town board could appoint the people.
And that's a little loosey-goosey.
Yeah. It's tricky, but I think it would be legal. I mean, town council probably has read it since it's in the warrant, but
Was he there when you were at the select board on Tuesday, Patty? Jay Tellerman?
I don't think so. He was at the pre-town meeting last week.
And didn't say anything as far as whether,
No,
okay, well, silence probably means he thinks it's,
I asked Paul Semino about this one too today, and he said he had no problems with it.
interesting. Tim?
I think you're better off just having it a moderator appointed board.
I'm not sure I agree with that.
Can't tell the selectmen what to do. That's the problem, the select board, excuse me. And I just, again, I don't want to, offer an invalid opinion. This section 3, I don't know that it passes muster with the Attorney General. It's very vague. And what happens if you have 2 elected town boards and they both claim ownership? Who gets it?
So Patty, I agree, that's got to get cleaned up as far as being a little bit more specific as to what happens as a default here if the select board don't act.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think the important point here is when you're writing this bylaw, I understand the purpose behind it and it makes sense to me, but we can't force the select board to do anything.
So therefore, you probably need a really robust plan B, which is the paragraph 3. So why don't you want it to be moderator appointed? Because that would solve the select board problem.
Public Works Planning Board.
Well, I hear you there, but here you're very specific, a
I
person.
mean, you're
from the store.
concentrating a lot of power in one person, I would say. I don't know. I mean, if that's the answer that's going to solve this, like I said, I'm willing to discuss anything. I'm willing to compromise. It's simply the point of it that, and as I said to the Board of Select, selectmen the other night that, I mean, I know that they're very busy. They all serve on a lot of different boards. They have responsibilities, and a number of them have also full-time jobs. So to have one person that's doing the kind, I mean, seriously, in 2019, I think I spent almost 200 hours to put together that presentation for town meeting.
I remember.
That is not something, somebody who's serving on the Board of Selectmen, who's serving, you know, as representatives to have it at the other boards, trying to keep a job and keep, you know, however many hours with the meetings going, has the time to do. So pull in a group of people that amongst them is going to be able to divvy up and create that to get the work done. And as I said the other night to the select board, you know, because they didn't feel it was proper for someone from a committee to be negotiating with the private schools, I said, that's fine. I'm willing to compromise. How about if the board is just there to do all that research that can't otherwise be done, to have that open discussion, you know, public meetings, get feedback from people, and then it can still be the board, the select board, or maybe someone from the select board and a representative from this committee that meet with the school. It's fine. It doesn't have to be just this committee that then goes and tries to negotiate on behalf of the town.
The two proposed laws are still sitting in committee, right, AP?
Yep.
So the other thing is, you know, is the select board willing to relinquish the responsibility of negotiating with some of these big institutions?
Marty Healy called this article rash. the other
Rat.
night.
Because
Called it what?
Rash. A
Rash?
He did not want to see a rash decision by town meeting.
so you're not going to be able to negotiate with them, except, you know, you're either going to have to bring them to a meeting, right, with the whole board, and they won't do that, or you're going to have to send a subcommittee to them to do all the negotiations. And if the select, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how you're getting around the select board here. And then the second part is, what's the end result? Is this a report to the select board? Is this a warrant article to accept the payments that have been negotiated? And what happens if the select board refuses to put that warrant article on the warrant?
To accept the payments.
Yeah, you have
They don't have a
to,
warrant article. Well, they do have a warrant article now to accept the payment.
It's an annual article to accept all donations.
right, but you know, the select board can do what they want, right, Kathy?
Yeah, but
they're-
of course,
If they're against this,
They're not going to
Then-
put something that's getting the town money. They're going to avoid putting that on the warrant. I think that would
Well,
be
you
a
know.
problem with the citizens.
You know, it depends on who gives the money.
who knows is what I'm saying.
Marcy, any questions for Patty about this one as far as really trying to understand what we need to understand to take a position on this one?
I listened in the other night, Patty, and I heard the selectmen's feedback. And one thing that came out of that, it seemed to me, was that you were suggesting possibly changing the advisory member over to a board of selectmen or a select board member as a compromise. And I didn't know if that's a plan you have to make that a motion on town floor or how that might
Yeah.
work, but
Actually,
Okay.
before the presentation.
okay, so I thought that was a good idea. I think that Tim obviously makes some good points, and Kathy, that you might not be able to get around the select board. And I also like the idea of having the moderator appoint the other members. I thought that was that could be very helpful in this regard. I would say in favor of this article for you that I completely disagreed with the select board's opinion that this type of committee would be considered adversarial against the schools. I think we form a lot of committees for lesser things in this town. And I think it could be very beneficial to do research, ask questions, have some form of collaboration. And the select board could still be the point person, speaking with the schools. I don't think that was the intent that you proposing here. So I think that's all I had. You've answered my questions.
Patty, are you going to do a report you're going to do a presentation at town meeting on this one?
Yes,
Okay, as the article comes up.
yes.
Eric?
I think the only question I have, and forgive me if it came up previously, but I don't think I caught it. I know you said that you had looked at other towns and reached out to their communities. I mean, do you have any, and I understand that part of this is to do further research. Do you have any sense of how many other municipalities in the Commonwealth have put similar boards in place?
Actually, I think Westboro just did it, like at their recent meeting.
But we used to have a pilot committee here too. So
There is,
We
they
still do.
only took that, no, I think it's off of the website now, because after that was approved at 2019 town meeting, and I had contacted them saying, okay, so I volunteer to be on this committee. They decided that they didn't need a committee and they were going to do it themselves. And then I think after that, they actually took it off the website. So I'm not sure. I don't think it is there.
Yeah, it's still there. It's
Oh, is it?
not the same one. It's only a 3-person committee.
and who's on it?
Wait a minute.
Nobody. It's a vacant.
Vacant.
Yeah. Right.
I think this might answer the question about appointing, who's the appointing body, if you truly want this type of committee to exist.
That's fine. I don't care. Like I said, the I hate to say this bluntly, but the details of it, I'm adaptable to. That's fine, as long as it can create, solve the problem. Let's not forget that Mr. Healy is also the one that essentially gave back $20,000 of taxpayer money to St. Mark's by grading, graveling, and curb stoning a parking lot for them at St. Mark's new property. So, he can say all he wants about the money he got, but he also arbitrarily gave some back.
I don't know what everybody else thinks, but if you look at the charge of this committee, it seems to me like an alternative is to understand why this committee is not active. I mean,
Yeah, the charge is very similar.
yeah.
Do we
In
think
other words,
nobody?
it's in place. Why
Well,
not?
but see, that's exactly the problem. That is exactly the problem, because there is a committee they choose not to populate or use, and therefore it needs to be a standing committee versus an ad hoc committee, from what I understand.
Is that one ad hoc, AP?
I don't. Hold on, let me see.
Yes.
Looks like Patty thinks it is.
Patty, just to be clear, and I promise I'm not challenging, I'm just ignorant here. Are you saying for a fact that the select board has just chosen 100% not to appoint
Yes.
folks? That's
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because I volunteered to be on that committee in 2019 after town election.
Okay.
Or town meeting.
Yeah, but that was the one that was from that was a different committee than this one.
No, that was the committee. That committee has been on the books for 15 or 20 years.
Yeah. So there was no committee formed from the 19
I was
article that
2000
passed.
2019. No, I was just asking them to reinvigorate it,
Right. So
to
interesting.
do that, have people that would do that research, looking into, and come up with a better plan of, how to deal with this, how to approach this. And when you ask about the other towns and how they deal with it, one of the things that I did learn in 2019 is, and off the top of my head, frankly, I don't remember whether it was Franklin or Milton. Those two towns come into my brain, but what the treasurer there told me was that they actually have a handshake policy with their school, that any residential property is basically kept on the books. So all of their academic buildings and their dormitories are nonprofit tax-free. And he said, so instead of going to them every year and talking about pilot payments, they just simply keep all the residential properties on the tax books. So if, Joe Schmo is a taxpayer, his taxes go up, essentially so does the payment from the private school.
What
Frankly,
school
I
is
think
that
that
one,
makes-
Patty?
I can go back in and look it up.
Well,
it's
KUA,
either-
KUA definitely does it that way, so I know that for a
Yeah.
fact.
It was either Franklin or Milton. I
I think it's Milton, or it could be, and Andover does a similar one.
Yeah, and
No, it
KUA
was
too. So there's
definitely
definitely examples of
down
that
that way.
being what the agreement is.
Yeah, and you know what? I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's not going to come. These both of these main schools own well over $100 million worth of property, but you're never going to be able to get them to pay taxes on $100 million or pay taxes on their academic buildings or their dormitories. But I do think that they should be paying the comparable to the taxes on their residential properties that they're buying, because that's what they're removing from the tax basis.
And Patty, I don't disagree with you. I think they should. St. Mark's actually does on the newer properties that they acquired. But
No, actually, that's not true. And New England Center for Children actually basically made a promise to do that back when they bought that main piece of property on Route 9. But
yeah, but
if you
they're
can-
required to, as part of their purchase and sale agreement,
to do what?
to pay those taxes. St. Mark's pays $51,000 for the properties that they took off the recent purchases. But the issue is you can't force them to. And my
They don't
concern is,
pay taxes on those properties because all those residential properties are claimed on their 3ABCs, which is a document that they file in order to claim nonprofit status.
No, we agree they don't pay taxes, but they make a payment in lieu of taxes equal to what the
Correct.
taxes would have been if they were paying taxes.
correct, which is exactly what you're talking about, the agreement with the other towns. The concern I have with the committee, and I too applied for the committee when they activated in 2019, is it can be very beneficial and it can also at the same time be very unbeneficial. The agreements and the negotiations have to be done in a very constructive manner and with a committee appointed by people or appointed by committee members of other committees. You don't know the makeup of what that committee is going to look like. And I would be I like the old committee where it was 3 people selected by the selectmen versus people appointed from other committees. I think they can be much more selective in having constructive people that are going to do things.
But we can't force them to populate it.
Well, but I think it should be up to the selectmen to decide how they want to do this negotiation. If they want help to do the data, they can get people to help do the data. If they don't, I do think it's up to the selectmen to decide how they want to do it. And as somebody that understands how these nonprofit boards and administrations work, you're not going to force them to do anything they don't want to do by force. The only way you're going to do it
No,
is by appealing to their greater interest. And it's a very delicate process because they could say, we're not going to give you anything and you can't do anything about it.
Actually, I think what Faye actually said back in 2012 or 14 was, we don't have to, therefore we won't.
And since then, through negotiation and relationship building, we've been able to get more out of them. And that's, I think, the path that we need to continue to go down. But once we have a committee in which it gets heated or they have, the wrong conversation with the wrong people with the wrong tone, they're going to shut down and not give us anything. And ideally, the state goes ahead and passes these laws that they're trying to do, which would get us 25% of their tax revenue. And that's the best thing we could do is pressure. I mean, I'd rather see the effort gone into our legislators to try to push them into passing those bills. That's the best ammunition we have for pilot.
All right, guys, it's 8:50. We're running a little bit behind. So Patty, I think we've got everything that we need to discuss this further. I'll keep you posted.
Okay.
All
right.
And let you know.
Like I said, I'm willing to, offer compromises to this from the very beginning. If there's a better way to solve the problem on either one of these. Fine, it doesn't, you know, I'm not looking to get up there and have everybody vote no. You know,
I doubt
I
if
just
that's
need a
gonna happen.
suggestion.
I don't think you're gonna get, you know, a total no vote, for sure. But I don't know what the vote will be. I don't know who's coming, you know, it depends on your
Yeah.
audience.
Fair
Okay,
enough.
so we really appreciate you coming tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, and I'm sure we'll be in touch.
Okay, sounds good.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. Bye-bye. Okay, so next is CPC. So that is Andrew Mills and Tim Davis.
Hey,
So-
how are you?
Hey,
Is Tim on? I can't see.
he's there. We're gonna move him over.
Come over
Okay.
now.
Great. So I assume you wanted to learn about the project to resurface and repair the tennis courts at Fiscal. Is that correct?
Yes.
So Tim and the Recreation Department came to the CPC asking for funds to rehab.
So let me introduce you first, Andrew, because we can't see.
Okay.
So Andrew Mills is are you the chair this year or just on CPC?
I am the chair of the CPC.
Okay, so he is the chair of CPC. He's been on CPC, the Community Preservation Committee, that basically takes the funds from the CPA that are generated with our 1% surtax and accepts projects, vets them, and recommends projects that fulfill the standards of the CPA to the town. Andrew is also on the planning board, so he wears two hats. And then Tim Davis, as you guys know, those who met him before, is the current head of the rec department. Okay, now go ahead.
Yeah, so thanks for that introduction. So one of the areas where we can recommend projects to town meeting is for recreation. We've done tennis courts in the past, the ones over by Neary. We had those resurfaced a few years back. These ones, one of them used to be the old skateboard park that was dismantled due to lots of use and just age, corrosion and deterioration. That was on one of the courts down at Mooney Field. So the recreation department came, asked for the funds to redo the tennis courts, a total of $61,820. And they have bids to back up that that's the money that's needed, and it's all broken down. But I'm going to let Tim do his little presentation. He's got pictures to show the degradation of the courts down there and why they need to be rehabbed. So take it away, Tim.
Thanks, Andrew. Kathy, can I share my screen real quick?
Of course. Eric, can you give Tim screen sharing privileges?
You good, Tim?
Thank you very much. All right. Everybody see that?
Yeah.
All right, so just super quick. Andrew just gave the breakdown of what we're looking on. So these are the tennis courts out by Fiscal on the town side of that property of the Mooney Athletic Complex. Currently, as he mentioned, the biggest one in question is the old skate park. There was old skate equipment there for years when I started here. We did remove it about 2 years back during the start of the lockdown, just out of pure safety hazards that presented. And then just with the continued increase of tennis, especially because of the pandemic, but also pickleball, with the increase of demand with pickleball, we're looking to resurface those courts to house both sports, to present both sports to the community to utilize. So this is just kind of the breakdown of what we're looking at. It's pretty self-explanatory, as you can see. I wish I brought up a ruler, but that first crack on the left, you can literally put your hand down the entire thing. So they're pretty sizable. They've just gotten worse over time. They spread over each court on the one that's already set up for tennis, as you see there, but also on the far court, that was the skate park. So just sizable cracks. We're not looking to do I know there was a question that came up, I believe, from this committee, about the extent of the renovation that was done at Neary. That's not what we're doing here. We are doing a basic reseal of this court to put down a membrane system to take care of clean out the cracks, seal the cracks, fill them, and then reseal the entire courts and repaint them. Again, with keeping one tennis court the way it is, but then on the far court where the skate park was, to introduce pickleball lines over there as well. So we can add that in. So pretty simple project. The company that got the lowest bid that we were able to get is New England Seal Coating. I've used them in the past in different lives of different towns. Very reputable. This is what they do. Kind of a cookie cutter project for them. So we're confident in the work that we are going to receive. And we're just really looking forward to bringing back online at least that one court that's been vacant for quite some time now.
Tim, how long is your bid good for?
If we sign it, they could get on for the summer.
Okay, but
So-
the bid cost are, I mean, you know why I'm asking, because of everything that we're seeing.
Yeah, no, yeah, so the price locks in when we sign it. Obviously, we're sitting on it. We've had it for a while. I did contact a company on that. They said it could fluctuate. So we actually got an updated quote of an anticipated increase of a potential of what they're looking at. And that price falls within the contingency amount that we asked for, below that amount really. So we're still confident what we asked for is going to be more than enough with some left over to get the work done.
So if this gets approved at town meeting, and it's probably fairly likely it's going to, are you ready to go July 1st?
Yeah, so we would sign it and then we would get put on their queue for this summer, this coming summer. And, hopefully the weather works in our favor and they get it in.
So by the time school starts, it should be done.
Yeah, that's don't say it out loud, but yeah, that's it.
I won't, but you walked into a lot of projects not done, right? And because of the delay, that's why I'm asking, they cost a lot more than what we had approved. So it sounds like you got this one under control and that won't
Yeah,
happen.
this should be a pretty basic one, hopefully.
Okay, alrighty. Eric, any questions for Tim as far as the project itself?
No, straightforward, excited for it. Pickleball, that's the new rage.
Does everyone know what pickleball is? I don't.
It's like ping pong on a tennis court.
With a
Much
wiffle ball.
With a wiffle ball, yeah.
Right? I've never played it, but it's
It's fun. It's a lot of fun.
everywhere.
I get it. You play it and then you
Ping
say, okay,
pong?
I get it.
So it's like
So-
ping pong?
Yeah,
It's
it's just
tennis
you
on a
take the
smaller
tennis
court. Yeah.
You shrink it down. Yeah.
Well, I was
We'll
my
get you,
high
we'll
school
get you
ping
out there,
pong.
Kathy.
I was my
can,
high school ping pong champion, no joke. So I can play
Yeah.
ping pong. So maybe I'll play it. Okay, so AP.
I think, Tim, the only question I had with the cracks that are we comfortable that sealing them and filling them in is going to be enough? Or are we worried about the structural integrity? Like, are we worried about the structural integrity in which, in a couple of years, we're going to be in the same situation and we should be looking at doing a full, repouring of it? Or you think we're comfortable with the size of what we got going on?
So for more detail on it, so it's not a simple just fill in the cracks. So what it is, it's actually a 3-layer membrane system that covers the crack, seals it, but also moves with it, gives
Okay.
the ability to move with it, because we know that crack is only going to, depending on the weather, get larger or get smaller. So speaking with the company and from what they're saying, depending on use and knowing the use of this court, we're probably looking 7 to 10 years we would get out of this before we'd probably have to look something else. So a pretty long while to take care of it.
Is there a warranty on the work?
There is. I did ask that question. I did receive it. I can send you that offline when I find it. So I don't have it in front of me.
AP, anything else?
No, if we could get 7 to 10 years out of it, I think it's a good use.
Sure.
I just, for another committee I'm on, we just resurfaced it, and about 1 year into it, we pretty much had to rip up all the asphalt and redo it. So that's what my concern. But
What committee is that?
nonprofit board that I'm on for YMCA camp.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant town. Marcy?
Thanks, Tim and Andrew. I have no questions. They've already been answered. Thanks so much.
Where's Timothy? There he is.
Here.
Tim?
No questions.
Okay, pretty straightforward, Tim. Okay, and thank you for the info on the revolving fund too. That was excellent. Okay, so
Kathy, one quick question for Mr. Mills. Was this voted on by CPC and was it unanimous?
It was voted on to recommend to town meeting, yes, and it was unanimous.
Great, perfect, thank you.
so Andrew, I tried to get Carla to send us all the CPC accounts as far as where they stand, and she's sick. She just got back from her trip, so she's sick. So we'll get those and look at those separately. So we're not going to grill you on those tonight, but I would think they're pretty healthy given this small project at this point, and the fact that the state match is getting better.
Yeah, and we also had a significant amount of interest and investment return from the town this last year based on the accounts. So, yeah, we're in pretty good shape.
So when they cleaned up some of the old ones, they returned a lot of money, is what you're saying?
No, it actually, we're supposed to have Brian Valentine come and speak to us at the next meeting because we got a significant return on investment.
Oh, so you really mean investment, so wherever the money was parked.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. But they also did try to clean up some old articles and close those out, so I would think you get something back from those too.
Yeah, we're still working on trying to return those. You know, some of them are still lingering because they don't have the appropriate signage, but they were funded by CPC that, you know, still have some money out there. You know, a lot of them are, you know, a couple $1,000, small numbers, but there are a couple that are bigger that we're working on getting those all returned. So.
Has St. Mark's started to request any money for their project?
They're lining things, you're talking St. Mark's Church, correct?
Yeah, church.
Yeah, they said they're starting to line things up and we should hear shortly when they're ready to start work and get the contract.
It's not your problem. It'll be theirs. I just, you know, I'm just scared of what costs are doing. I had oil delivered today. It's $5.93 a gallon. So I mean, there's just inflation every place you turn.
Yeah.
I'd like to see them get going before it costs too much more. Okay. Do you still have any interest in debating whether we should propose to increase the surtax?
Yeah, there's definitely, I mean, let's see, how do I answer that? You know, it wouldn't hurt to increase the surcharge. We don't call it a tax, it's a surcharge is what the official term is. I know when I talked with Freddie was an original CPC member who created it for the town. I think there need to be a real effort put forth in marketing why we're going to do it, and we probably need a specific thing that we're trying to support to do that.
I agree on both.
Is what would really be needed, and I don't know if we have that platform at the moment, but we do discuss that on a regular basis.
So to everyone else that's not aware of what we're talking about, so if you take a look at your tax bill, you take a look at the value of your property, take off $100,000, multiply times the tax rate, and then times 1%. That's the piece that's going to, that's the CPA. So you can go, the state allows you to go from 0 to 3%. We picked 1% when it was passed. I think it took 2 times to get it passed. If you increase that surcharge from 1 to 3%, the state gives you a bigger match than just 3 times the 1%. So you get more money from the state. So they're encouraging you to do this. So there is an incentive to increase it, which is why I'm bringing it up. But I agree that you've got to have some projects lined up that look like they would pass muster. And you would definitely have to launch a campaign to sell this, because it would increase the tax bill for sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just wondered what you thought. We brought it up, a year or so ago, and you seem to be interested.
I mean, it wouldn't hurt. I'm not out there trying to just, increase the coffin over here, or the coffee can for CPC. I think that the CPC in the past, we've done a lot of great projects for the town overall. Knock on wood, our our record for items that have been proposed to the town is 100% got approved. We do a lot of vetting ahead of time. There are projects that we turn away that don't meet the criteria. We try to align it to the master plan. We do our best to make sure that there are other funding opportunities too, not just 100% from the CPC. So, but at this point, I don't see, a large project. If there was something we knew that the town really wanted and had a goal for, that we say, hey, we had a 5-year vision to go after, I think we could, get the support to do that. But right now, I don't know if the appetite is right within the town and the financial situation of the townspeople, to be honest. Like you said, inflation and everything.
I think Tim needs a whole rec center with a field house.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
That would be, certainly bump it up to 3%, bond it out over 10, 20 years and call it a day.
Yeah, I don't think we'd be allowed to
That's
do
simple.
an actual rec building. We could do fields, we can do.
Yeah,
open
like a field house and a whole set of fields.
space.
Yep. Okay, just thought I'd throw that out there. So thank you, both of you, for coming. I know it's late, but this was interesting, and we're going to vote. We voted on all the other administrative stuff, so we're going to vote on this one tonight. We just wanted to hear from you first.
Yeah, no problem.
All right,
That's
thank you.
it. Tim, great job. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll see you guys soon.
Yep, bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, so now can you bring over Barry? Eric, he is here for the personnel board.
Right.
Good evening.
Hey,
So,
I'm sorry about the miscue on the email. I definitely spelled your name wrong, but it bounced back pretty quick. So I thought I corrected it and resent it, but maybe I didn't. Maybe I did it twice the same way.
Well, I got the last one. That's all that matters.
All right.
I don't know why you want me to do this. I know you've seen the track changes version. I don't know if everyone's seen the summary.
Yeah, well, it's been sent to them by email, but I thought you could just start there, Barry, because the summary is really clear. So I thought we'd just go over the summary real quick and see if there's any questions on those.
That's fine.
Okay.
That's fine. So just quickly, 7A, what we did last year was synchronized annual increases. So instead of employees getting them on the anniversary date, everyone gets it on July 1st. This year, we're just clearing it up so it's July 1st, and also dealing with the situation where someone is hired right before July 1st. We didn't think we wanted them to get another increase on July 1st. So employees hired between April and July 1st would wait a year till the following July 1st to get an increase. So that's all the first paragraph, 7A.
So why don't we do it this way? Why don't we just say, if anybody's got a question
Okay.
as we go, let's ask them as we go. So we don't have to go why we're just discussing.
Okay.
So I'm just going to assume there's no questions unless somebody says they raise their hand, but I've got one on this one. So if I'm hired January 1st, I get the full raise July 1st.
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, moving on. The next one is really internal to the board. It's essentially, 7A. Does anyone have any questions on any part of 7A? Or 7 for that matter?
And 7A is reviews. The personnel board has said, look, and we don't really participate in those, like maybe even attendance. So we just want to not do them anymore. We just want someone to tell us that they've been done, certify they've been done. And then from there, we'll take it. But we're not going to be responsible to review them going forward.
Correct.
Okay. But we want them done.
Okay, let me move on to section 11. Pretty clear, just making Juneteenth a holiday. And then there's 11B5, just the legal issue. Section 13 is just to provide more oversight, financial oversight on managers making use of part-timers.
So there you're talking about someone who's normally part-time. They've got something needs to be done. They need to work extra temporarily. So they may even be full-time temporarily. So you're trying to make sure that there's oversight of that so we don't end up with an issue of someone working too much, that they really are full-time and we've got problems with benefits, whatever.
Correct. You could have a manager trying to manipulate it in a way so they save money by not having to pay for benefits, but we're effectively using a full-time person. So we allow some leeway on that. You know, there are emergencies that come up, but we want to be sure that that doesn't manifest into something completely different.
Financial director is capitalized. Who is it? Who do you guys consider the financial director?
Brian Ballantyne.
Okay. All right, I see no
Okay.
hands, so let's keep going.
Okay, 16. Nothing there.
That's easy. We're going to have a vice chair, not a clerk.
Yeah, that's the first part. And the second part, just right now, the statute says we have to do set the classification schedule 6 months in advance of annual meeting. We just need more flexibility than that. So that's all that does. 18 is, again, just streamlining the way a citizen could try to amend the SAP. And then you're all well familiar with the nurse position that was added. So we had to place it in certain position in Schedule A, which we did. Similarly with the local inspector position. And then finally, we voted to increase all the schedules by 3%. That doesn't have any immediate financial impact. It really only is relevant for someone who's being hired. Could potentially affect them, but
Do you
otherwise,
intend to do that every year, or propose this every year?
we don't do it every year. We do it periodically, just to make sure that employees are not bumping up against the top of the tables, and to make sure we're paying new hires enough. But we also do, just as we're going to be doing next fiscal year, a salary study. So we'll reset all of the tables.
So you're doing that next year?
Yeah, actually starting this fiscal year, be completed in the second half of this year.
Okay. So next is children's librarian to youth services librarian.
Yeah, that's just a change in title, no change in job responsibilities, but Ryan thought it more accurately reflected the scope of what the person is actually doing.
Okay.
And again, local inspector, we were requested to add that by the building department.
So that one I was confused about. So we've got a building inspector. We only have a building inspector there. I mean, she's got a staff person, but she doesn't have anybody else. What are they trying to do there in case we need to hire?
No, well, yes, I believe they need additional resources because she can't do all of the work that needs to be done. So that's the reason for the position. But it's a part-time position.
Okay. All right, and then you told us about the increasing the 3%.
Right.
So I've got a question. What was the thought process in the recommended increases for the SAP employees for fiscal year 23, the 3%?
So we look at a number of factors. We look at the CPI. We look at what our comparable communities are doing. We looked at the collective bargaining agreements, and we look at what the contract employees get. And we just sort of analyze that data. You know, this is more an art than a science, but our feeling was, particularly given what you've already talked about tonight, the inflation that's going on, and you hear figures like 7%, that, and you look at what union employees are getting, we're never going to be at parity with union employees, but we try to keep fairly reasonably connected to it so the gap doesn't get so large that we end up having more unionized employees, if you will. So it's all of those factors combined and the collective judgment of the group. That's the process.
Okay. All right, so guys, this is Article 5, and we will vote on this one, I think, in a few minutes. We just wanted to give Barry a chance to remember that's the one that's in the article, the whole thing. And so these are the changes. So the changes, this is a fairly minor set of changes compared to what it has been in past years, at least in some meetings. So anyone have any other questions for Barry as far as the changes he just listed? Anybody have an issue with any of the changes?
No, I would say I like that. We don't usually get the red line version or the summary, and I think this is great.
And the summary is really good.
Somebody just repeat what you said about performance appraisals, Kathy, and Barry. Something about, I'm looking, I don't see where that we're talking about on that.
That's in 7A.
Okay.
But in a nutshell, it used to be that the board had to review all 47, 48 personnel evaluations. Number one, we don't know these people. It's very difficult for us to judge. But we also found over time that as someone whose background is in the private sector, the way these are done, so you have 47, 48 employees, there's probably 40 separate categories on each evaluation. So say 1,1700 categories in all. 2 lines does not meet expectations. So in all of these employees, there's only 2 people who any part of their job doesn't meet expectations. We find that hard to believe. And we actually paid for training for all managers to get this, and nothing changed. And when you sit there and read, now that it's annualized, we have to read them all at one time. When you read 48 evaluations and they're all essentially the same, you conclude that you're serving no purpose in reading these evaluations. So we just decided we're not going to waste our time anymore. We still think evaluations are important and need to be done, but it doesn't serve any purpose for our board to have to read them. So that's in a nutshell what happened.
It's a great segue into a question that came up last night at the candidates night, which was something that I wasn't aware of. And as a new advisory member, I'm not aware of a lot of things, but it was raised that department heads don't get written performance appraisals at all. And that they only receive a verbal, maybe check in, check out kind of thing with the town administrator. So it seems to me like now we will have a situation where you guys, and I understand the rationale, I get it, aren't going to be looking at anyone below department heads. Department heads aren't even going to have anything written. So where's the oversight going to be of the employees of the town?
Well, I mean, I think we have to crack down because department heads are covered by the SAP.
Are you saying are or aren't?
I believe they are. There's no.
Most of them are, Marcy. There's a few that aren't. DPW is not, police is not, fire is not, but most are.
Yeah,
and
if
so
they have a contract, they're not.
yeah,
But
if
they
you
don't
read
have a
this,
contract-
if you read what they're changing here, they're saying the personnel board won't approve any raises unless they get assurance that they get told that the performance review was done and that the person received at least a satisfactory rating, or they're not going to approve the raise. So there is a little bit of a stick here as far as even department heads going forward getting this done. So I do actually think they've improved that, because I was surprised to hear that too last night, Marcy.
Thank you for clarifying that. So anyway, I realize the personnel board's position. I get it. If you're going to review things, it's just the same, and you're turning, evaluations that don't really have that much meaning. That makes sense. But I guess the oversight piece, it's helpful to understand that part. Thank you.
And so, Barry, I would assume with everybody pretty much meeting expectations, we're not bell curving our ratings.
part of the problem is that most of these departments have one employee in them or two. So it's hard for an individual manager to grade them on a curve. That's what we would do in the private sector. But, the departments are just so small that that's not really feasible. But, and part of it is just part of it's cultural. Part of it is it's a small community. People sort of know, and everybody all the managers want their employees to feel like they're being treated well vis-a-vis someone who works in the next office. I get it. But, it's just not realistic. And the bottom line in all this, and where it comes out for me at least, there'd been a movement for some time to talk about merit pay. And there was a working group, even before I got on the personnel board, that got nowhere. And I think this is sort of the death knell for that. Let's just call it what it is. Everybody will get the same increase. Everybody who's at least satisfactory, and that's everyone, will get the same increase, and we'll just move along our merry way. I think that's just it is.
I think unless, probably it would probably take the select board to really change that with some kind of policy and push it down from the top, right?
Yeah, and I'm not sure exactly how they go about doing that, but yeah, I just think we tried as best as we could to sort of get the point across, and it just didn't stick.
No, that's a hard one to get to stick in towns. So Barry, you guys have 2 vacancies on personnel board right now. Is that true?
We have one now.
Okay.
So if you know of anyone, please.
Well, so advisory could sit on that.
That's actually true. It's true. I don't see anybody raising their hand now. So yeah, we actually advisory could ask to have a person on that because it is a moderator appointed committee. And that's what we are allowed to sit on when you're talking about standing committees. So yeah, we could. But at least you got 4. I thought you only had 3. So I was going to say you got to have all 3 there for a quorum.
Well, as you may have heard, we have real quorum issues because one of our members had to recuse himself on the nurse position. So we went through 3 meetings being unable to act on that until at the last minute, Mr. Semino came up with someone to join our committee. So we got 4.
Yep. So we understand that. And believe me, we understand quorum problem too. We used to have the same problem. We reduced our committee from 9 to 7 at the last special town meeting, and it's helped us a whole lot. So, okay. All right. Anybody else have any other questions for Barry before we go on to other things? All right. Tim, anything?
No, nothing from me.
All right. So Barry, thank you for coming so late tonight. We appreciate it. And we are going to vote on Article 5 shortly.
Thank you all for your time. Appreciate it.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Okay, so this is it before town meeting. So we've got a few that I think we can vote on, so we'll do that in a second, but let's at least get everybody caught up as far as what's going on with the budget. And then tomorrow, either Andrew or I will send around what we think is the final, what we call RevCap, which is the Excel workbook that should show what we believe the year-over-year increase is going to be. We just need to talk to Brian Ballantyne one more time and come to a meeting of the minds as far as how to basically account for the split in the increase in real estate for houses versus the non-increase in commercial property. So we should have that to you sometime tomorrow morning. But this is what's happened in the last few days. I mean, this is pretty normal stuff too. So in the last few days, Mr. Healy went to both private schools and he secured agreements for more donations that will come in the next few weeks. So Faye is going to write a check for $70,000. It is going to buy the fire pickup truck that's on the capital plan. St. Mark's is going to write a check for $89,800, and they're going to pay for the second year of the fire PPE. That agreement was struck last year, so this is year 2 of that. So they're paying for half of it. They're gonna pay $14,000 for the fire radios that are on the Capitol. Hey, AP, can you get up the, can you
Yeah.
share your screen and show the capital plan so they, people can follow what, everyone can follow what I'm saying as far as what's coming off? So these things are coming off because they're being paid for.
Yeah, and Kathy, one thing I realized that wasn't on Brian's spreadsheet is this the PPE that they're paying for?
I don't think so, because it's 40. So I think he already took that into account. So I think the 20 stays.
Okay.
Okay, except that. Well, where is the other 20? Well, it's there now, right? He says he's got this all set, right? So that's the piece that he already knew St. Mark's was going to pay for half of it. So I don't think he ever put it on there.
Okay. Okay. I think he just said we're gonna need half of it. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So follow with me here. So has he already taken it off? I guess he has. Okay. So the
Well,
pickup.
this
truck-
is my spreadsheet.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
So the $60,000 for the pickup truck, which is one where Andrew's got the
Right.
yellow, that's going to be paid for totally by Fiscal. So that won't come out of the tax levy. Then the next thing down, the knock box vehicle, St. Mark's is paying for 4,000 of that. So that's going to come down to 6 as far as out of the tax levy. The radios, the next one down, the 14,000, St. Mark's is paying for that. Okay, so that is the changes that are being made because of the agreement Mr. Healy just struck for this year's donations from the 2 schools. And that's what they are. They're donations. They're no requirement.
I would add the 60,000 for the cruisers is now ambulance fund because we aren't using the ambulance fund for the pickup truck.
Right, so that's going to help the tax rate too. So I agree with you. So those things we just described are all bringing the tax increase down a notch. Not a whole lot, but a notch. It really bit helps. Okay, so that's the good news. The bad news is the other one that Andrew has identified, which is the collapsed culvert on Northborough Road. That's been that way for quite a while. So the estimate that Capital had for this was quite low compared to the bids they have. So we got a large grant from the state to help pay for this. But then the actual bids that came in, the lowest one increases our contribution from 38,000 to 98. So the whole thing is 168,000 instead of what we
But
thought.
I think it's higher. So the tricky thing, Brian said 98, but I thought I said it was 84 in the selectmen's meeting last night, but I'm not sure what the actual number is.
Well, the email I've got says 98.
98.
So you said last night, he said the town share is 84 with a low bid.
I don't know if he said it or if whether it was Lisa or somebody said that the
Okay,
increase
all right,
was
I
84.
stand corrected too. Purple says it's 84.5.
Okay.
Okay,
I just
so,
wasn't sure what the 98 was in Brian's spreadsheet, but
okay, because you see 98 when you look at his spreadsheet.
correct.
Okay, all right, but he clearly says 84.5 here. So, but it's still quite a bit of increase from what we thought. So now the question is, do we want to support fixing the culvert? You don't have to fix it. Mr. Martell knows we don't have to fix this. So we could just say we don't support it.
I think for me, I don't support it for this town meeting, right? For going from 108,000 to almost 200,000 is a big move that hasn't been gone through capital. They haven't reviewed it, right? I think it's worth taking it out of this town meeting. And if they want to put it on a fall one, great. I think we're waiting to hear back from Mr. Purple on whether or not there is any time constraint on spending the 70,000. My assumption is,
or whether it can be spent on something else. He's also asking that
yeah.
question. Okay.
yeah, because my assumption is that the 70,000 was in the ARPA legislature. So it most likely is 2026. So I don't think there's any real rush on that, but assuming that it could be spent later, I don't think it needs to be necessarily in this town meeting.
Yeah, but even if there was a problem, here we go back to the, this, to me, the analogy to the St. Mark's Park. Even if it can't be spent, is it something we really should be spending money on? If it affects one house and that house has another way to go, we're not locking them in. Is it something we really should do to begin with? But by amending, so right now it's my understanding that capital is not going to support this. It's my understanding that the select board are considering not support this. So we're not on a limb here, I don't think, as far as what others who weigh in on this think at this point. But we still have to make our independent decision as to what we want to do here. Do we want to propose to amend this at town meeting if someone else doesn't, to pull this for now?
Yeah,
So that's the
Kathy,
question.
yeah, Kathy, one thought I had is by postponing it is it gives us time to evaluate it. I mean, maybe you discontinue the road at a certain point, right? So that people, after the bridge, and maybe you make it a pedestrian bridge or a bicycle bridge versus a car bridge, and maybe the 70,000 covers that. I don't know, right? But I think this is some of the stuff that capital and the selectmen need to dig into in terms of the options.
But we just need to be ready if either capital and or the select board don't amend this. Do we want to propose? Now, this is not an indefinite postponement. Okay, you're not going to indefinitely postpone this article. You're just going to amend the article and lower it by $38,000. So that's how you accomplish this. So that's what we've got to decide tonight. Is this something we support removing from the capital article? Tim, I know you feel strongly about this one, so why don't you start?
Yeah, I do think we should. This is a road that doesn't have a purpose, and I don't know why we're spending a lot of money to maintain it.
Yeah, I think to me, I was fine when it was, basically spending $38,000 for $108,000 worth of work. But I'm fine with leaving this as we're good with it. But if they move to amend it to, instead of 38 to whatever the number is, 100 and whatever, I don't think I could support that.
Well, they're going to have to do that if it's not going to be so, and
Well,
then
they don't have to.
basically-
They could keep putting it out to bid until they get something that fits within the budget they have.
okay, but
I would like somebody who supports this to explain to me why this is needed. Like this is no different than paying somebody $100,000 to go dig a hole.
I mean, $85,000 is a lot of money. We got lots of uses for $85,000 besides something that is really not necessary. So I support amending the capital article to remove it completely. And then, we can talk about it further, debate it, but definitely take it out for now.
Yeah, I'm in support of that.
Okay, Marcy, we're going to vote on this, but I'm just trying to see what everybody thinks at this point.
I agree with your assessment, Kathy. I'm not convinced it's not needed, but I think that makes sense at this point. So I agree with you. Take it out
Eric?
and wait.
Eric?
Yeah, I agree. I guess one quick question. I feel like, because I'm not very well read in on this other than our conversations, I feel like there was a comment made on a previous meeting we discussed this, where there was a question of access from like a fire safety standpoint, right? In terms of access for fire trucks. Am I pulling that out of nowhere? Is that real? Is that something that's been discussed?
That excuse comes up a lot.
Okay.
It really does. I mean, I hear it in my neck of the woods all the time. And I still don't know what the fire safety issue was. Like, there are plenty of neighborhoods in this town that have one road access into them.
Yeah, I feel like
I
it was
would
something
think
we're talking
most
like
have one
turn
road
radius or
access into
something.
them. I mean,
Yeah.
I think it
about
was having a second way and then shaving some time off, maybe. But again, I don't think that's
Got it.
necessarily a good reason. But I believe that was the reason given.
But how
I
much
can
time
promise
can
you
be shaved off?
there's no time shaved off. I promise you that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I wanted to make sure my memory was clear on that or where that was. But yeah, no, I'm with you guys. I'm not supportive of, I'd like to take this out, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to see it amended up, that's for sure. And I don't want to have it sit there if it's not actually going to do anything.
Okay, who has not? So everybody's weighed in, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. Okay, so AP, why don't you make a motion to basically support, and let's get the number right here. So 859.5 plus 38 is what, 821?
Well, I mean, we've already voted to was this at town meeting or did we put support in the warrant article?
We did support. So we will change we'll make it clear we've changed it, that we've revoted. So on the screen, it's going to have a different vote.
Okay. I was
Okay.
just trying to figure out what the mechanics of it were, or whether or not we'd have to wait for the amendment and then not support that. Or is this one of those where the selectmen are just not going to read it?
They're going to read this one. No, they're going to read it, and they're going to read every item too, like they did last year, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
Okay,
except
and
for the one
then-
that
and
except for
then
the
we'll
one that they
talk to
didn't
them.
read, we had to do it at the fall town meeting.
We'll talk to them ahead of time. We're going to know what everybody wants to do, right? And so we're going to know that, yes, they want to, they don't. And so they'll decide who's going to make the amendment. They may make it, if they support, they'll make the amendment right away.
Yeah.
Okay, but we need to at least say that, we have, we support, we don't support the $38,000 in our vote.
I move that the advisory committee supports the capital article item for Northborough Road Culvert in the amount of $38,000.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, so everybody understand what he said to support it. So if you don't support it, you're going to say nay, if that's not clear. Okay, any further discussion? Roll call vote. Eric?
Sorry, Kathy, I missed that last part. Somehow I think you just confused me. I thought I was clear here, but now.
So we basically are revoting this item, Eric, and I did it to support. So if you don't want to approve the 38,000, say nay.
Great, nay, sorry.
All right. AP?
Nay.
Cook is nay. Marcy?
Nay.
Timothy?
Nay.
Okay, so Claire, that's a 0-4 vote to not support the $38,000 from
Zero.
the town levy.
0-5.
What did I say?
4.
Did I really? I thought I said 5. 0-5, 0. Okay,
It's late.
all right, sorry. Okay, so that's done. Okay, now we've got 2 or 3 others we can vote on. So is everyone amenable to now voting on Article 5, which is the annual personnel board article that takes up, half of the warrant? So they put the whole thing in there, right? And so we heard what the changes are. It sounds like everybody's okay with the changes. So is everybody ready to vote on this one?
Yep.
Okay, all right, AP
What article number is it?
5.
Okay, I move that the advisory committee supports Article 5 for the personnel board as written in the warrant.
Second,
Second.
any further discussion? Roll call vote. Eric?
Aye.
Cook is aye. AP?
Aye.
Marcy?
Aye.
Timothy?
Aye.
Okay, so that's 5-0, Claire. Okay,
Thank you.
all right, and let me just make sure I've got the article number right on that one. I think I do. Yeah, okay, so that's that one done. Okay, now the next one is the annual article to basically approve the expenditures from the 10 revolving funds. And we had a question on the big one, which is rec. So Tim Davis sent a basically a pretty detailed explanation of where the number comes from. They basically have accounted for 400 and I believe 61,000 of the 500. And in the email, he said, and since then, a couple of things, they've added, I think, 3 programs. So he thinks the number is going to be higher, much closer to 500. Tim, do you want to see the detail?
So if this is a yearly amount, Kathy?
Yes. Yeah,
But
yeah.
this is supposed to be an in and out kind of fund.
It is, but you have to, because it's not part of the town budget, right? You have to basically approve the amount that the maximum
Yeah.
amount that you allow to be spent out of that fund. Because
Yeah,
if you didn't, then the rec commission could spend every bit of it on whatever they wanted to. So you at least have to put a cap on what can be spent.
yes, but they're basically saying, what's the total amount that they'll ever put into this fund in a fiscal year? And so make that the cap, when the reality is, in any given month, what's the max that'll be in there? And that should be the max on the account.
I'm not quite sure I follow. They're basically saying this is not what's going in. This is what's coming out. This is truly the expenses that get run through the rec revolving fund, paying salaries of the people who provide the programs, et cetera. They've got the van in there. They've got $70,000 in there for the van.
I'm
that-
sorry, Kathy, is this the total amount of money that can be saved in the account, or is this the total amount that can be withdrawn on an aggregated basis in a year?
Spending
latter.
limit, yeah.
Ladder.
It's the latter. Okay, got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. And we've got the detail, and he did, he worked hard to put it together as far as what they voted on. The rec commission voted on this. Select board voted on this, or at least looked at it. And the van is in there. Part of that 461 is to buy a new van for their programs.
So there's a question, kind of separate, Kathy, but how does capital feel about a capital purchase being made by a department without any oversight?
They're supposed to have oversight. So the specs of the van are supposed to be run through capital, and they've agreed. So capital needs to sign off on the actual van before it gets purchased.
They did approve, I think, the capital item for it.
Did they?
I think so.
Yep. So it is supposed to go to capital. So it's not supposed to be just, done through the rec commission. The rec commission can request it, but then because it's capital, it should go through capital as far as truly vetting the need for it, the type, et cetera.
Okay.
Okay.
Make sure it's not the A-team van.
The what?
The A-team?
From the TV show?
Yeah, that's the van they're gonna get, right?
You're too
Mr.
young
T.
for the A-team.
You are too young, Andrew.
It's still a great show. There was a movie my age.
Yeah, they're doing a remake movie too, I think.
Maybe reruns.
So I almost just made the mistake I made a few weeks ago when my Zoom plugin pops up and says, do you want to update right now? And I clicked yes, and that's when I disappeared from that meeting. So I didn't do it this time. So good. So I learned the second time. Okay, so can we go ahead and vote on the article that approves the 10 revolving funds?
I'm good too. I move that the advisory committee supports Article 20 as written in the warrant.
Second. Okay, Tim, second and clear. Any further discussion? Roll call vote. Eric?
Aye.
Oh, sorry, Kathy. In the warrant, it's 500.
It is 500. I agree.
Okay, that's right,
So
right?
he gave us a spreadsheet that goes to 461. Then he said that excess, they weren't trying to hit it to the penny, right? They rounded up. But he said that excess has been eaten up already with 3 programs they've added since they put the 461 together. So yeah, it is around 500.
Okay.
Okay, so they rounded.
Sorry.
Okay, so we've had a motion, we've had a second, and we had some further discussion. So let's roll call vote again. Eric?
Aye.
Cook is aye. AP?
Aye.
Marcy?
Aye.
Timothy?
Aye.
Okay, so Claire 5-0 on Article 20. Okay, now the one substantive article that I think we may be able to vote on tonight is the noise bylaw, which we did earlier, right? Okay, and that's, so never mind, guys. I just got, so we voted 4-1,
We did
right?
that.
Okay, 4-1, correct?
For noise bylaw?
Yeah.
I thought we didn't vote because the one in the warrant we had wasn't the final version. Or am I
Well,
wrong
we
on that?
No, we did.
We did the
It
same.
was
Did vote,
4-2.
Andrew. We did vote.
It
was
You're right, it
4-2.
was 4-2. Adam came on and he voted, so it was 4-2. So it's 4-2 with Marcy and Adam being
Oh yeah,
the.
today we voted. Wait.
We did, Andrew.
I told you it's late.
I know.
It's been a long
Well,
day.
I almost did the same thing too. Well, yeah, we did vote on. Okay, so I think that is all we can vote on tonight. Okay, so what does that leave us to vote on either at the meeting before town meeting or at town meeting? The 4 citizens petitions articles, right? 2 by Michael Weishan and 2 by Patty Fiore. And then we've asked Michael to come. I asked him to come to this meeting. He's in Europe, so he couldn't come. And so now I've asked him to come to the pre-meeting, and I haven't heard back, so I don't know if he'll be there. I hope he does, so we have a chance to hear from him as far as his 2 articles go. I think we've got to discuss Patty's articles some more, which we can do in a minute before we vote on those. If we do vote tonight, we may want to wait to town meeting and see what others think. They definitely need some work as far as being able to pass muster, that much I can tell you. And she's clearly willing to amend these. She's going to be flexible if she just wants the substance of those to pass. So they definitely need some work on them. So I think we've got to talk about what that work would have to be to get them to at least be legally passable, right? Okay, so we got those four. We've got the trees article. We did pass scenic roads, and we did not pass the Neary school article. Okay, so that failed. That we voted that 131. AP cannot vote because he's on that committee. So that's 131. We passed scenic roads with a what was the vote?
4-1.
4-1. Okay. And AP was the nay on that one, correct? Okay. All right. Everybody see the email from Mr. Malinowski as far as requesting us to revote the feasibility study for Neary? Did everybody get that? He sent it, I don't know, 3 days ago, 2 days ago. So AP, you got it? Tim, did
Yep.
you read it? Did everybody, who didn't read it? I'll read it real quick if you didn't read it.
Kathy, I must have missed it. I didn't read it. I thought I printed everything, but I guess not.
Okay, let me just pull it up. It's short and to the point. So while I'm doing this, he's asking us to re-vote that article because the consequences of advisory not supporting this could cause it to fail. And if it fails, then we're kind of at ground zero as far as what happens to this project. So since we talked, why I'm pulling this up, since we talked last time and heard what the three members said as far as their opposition to this, Andrew and I have met with John Lemieux, who was the OPM for the public safety building. So I know him well, Andrew knows him pretty well. So he went back and did a survey of 15 recent projects for schools and looked at what they authorized as far as the feasibility study phase and sent that to us. So we talked to him about that. He then took those numbers and he updated those numbers to what he believes the numbers are in current dollars, because a couple of the projects were, there's 17, 18, 16. So I'm looking at the 15 projects. If you were just to take a arithmetic mean, the arithmetic mean is $959,000. If you take the median, just pick the one in the middle, it's $908,000. So there's not, there is one that's pretty big. So there's not anything that's skewing the mean too bad. So they're both pretty close. So 960 and 910 are the two averages that you might want to consider. Can it get done for less? He says probably, because the bidders will want the bigger project if since there's a bigger project possibly out there. And so would be willing to basically use this as a ability to get their feet in the door as far as being able to bid on the bigger project. So Tim, I don't know if any of this is going to persuade you or not, but if this were to fail at town meeting, and then plan B would be to bring it back. It can't come back at timely enough to be able to satisfy the MSBA calendar.
Yeah, I still don't understand why we're spending $60 million when we have an option to not spend $60 million.
But we're not, and we're not. So this is, we've really got to be clear about this. That committee is in charge of looking at every single alternative, including taking the existing Neary and fixing it. So Andrew and I tried to talk to John Lemieux about truly what the cost would be for that. It's not $4 million like they estimated, because the $4 million doesn't include ADA improvements, sprinkler system, et cetera. So the real number is higher than that, but it's not $60 million either. So that committee's charge is to look at every alternative, including just fixing Neary, keeping Woodward open, and figuring out what to do with the town needs separately. So it will, that's why this costs so much, because we've got the MSBA requires you to do that. So we should do it anyway, but they also require it. So there's going to be an intense effort to look at all variations of this project, including tearing it down. So there's your big one. A substantial rehab and then adding on an area would also be very costly. So, I mean,
somebody town meeting's gonna say, for $10, I'll tell you the answer, right?
they
Just
may.
Put a padlock on Neary's doors and just use Woodward. Just padlock Neary shut.
Yep. And you're
Problem
right.
solved.
That may happen. I went to Canada's night last night, and a very knowledgeable lady came up to me afterwards, and she said she watched all of the research committee's meetings. She clearly had, because she knew what the arguments were for what was proposed by the committee was simply, yes, demographics would allow us to close a school, and if you're going to close a school, we believe that Woodward is a better school to close than Erie. We looked at Finn too. So that's all we did. We didn't say, go do the big project. We just said, that's all we can tell you. And now we go to the next step. We applied to MSBA, we got accepted. And now we have to spend money to figure out what the better project is and let the town decide what they want to do. But you're right. I wouldn't be surprised if what you just said gets said at town meeting. It's going to depend on who's there, Wednesday and Thursday too. It very well could. So I'm just saying that I think this is probably going to be a tough one to swallow as it is. And then if advisory, and again, everybody, I'm not trying to influence you. I'm just trying to make sure everybody's got the facts here. If advisory continues to not support the article, I think that may seal the deal as far as it not passing. It's a majority vote, but if people come skeptical, just like Tim described, and they see the advisory committee who's supposed to advise them as to what to do, what they think town should do, and we say 131, which is a pretty big majority, we don't think you support it, then I don't know that it's going to pass. So I just want to make sure everybody, Jason asked us to consider revoting this. And I thought, we didn't have Tom and Adam here when we voted. So I thought they were going to be here, but they're not. So we got the same 5 here tonight voting. So we don't have our 7. This is the 5. So
Yeah, I would hold off, Kathy, on revoting it until before town meeting.
Until we get to 7.
They're supposed to, both of them should be there. I believe they said they would be there. So,
okay. All right. So we can definitely do that. But I guess I'm just asking Rachel to think, we're going to send the spreadsheet. I'll send that so you see where I get my numbers as far as what other towns have paid for similar projects. And I don't think he cherry picked these. He just went and found 15 projects that he looked at what they paid for the designer and the OPM. So the designer and OPM are part of that 950. That's where it comes from. It's 2 different groups that get paid for this. So Tim, any further thoughts? Are you as skeptical now as you were before?
Yeah. So, Kathy, I completely agree with you. If I had my druthers, I would keep Neary open as a school. It just functionally makes so much sense. But we just know it's on its last legs and it has to be rebuilt. And the pricing is outrageous. And we have a school that we can just keep open, and it's not ideal, but $60 million can break this town.
$60 million is a huge amount to go through the tax levy. I agree. So Tim, one thing he did say to us that made both of our eyes pop up a little bit. He said, Kathy and Andrew, don't forget, if you just decide just to fix Neary, put new windows, new roof, which is 2 things are on the list, you still got to hire a designer and an engineer and whatever, and you may end up racking up almost as much money as far as those go as the 950. And so with the 950, you get the whole study done. Everything gets looked at. And this 950, we are expecting to get a piece of that reimbursed down the road from the SBA, maybe a third, 38%, something like that.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's only true if we try to fix it as a school. If we try to fix it so that it can be a superintendent's office as well as a rec office, and whatever we want to use it for as a non-school, it's going to be so much cheaper.
I think we'd still have to do it basically because it's over $1 million. We still have to hire an OPM. I could be wrong, but I thought that was the threshold.
Right, but if the school's not, if it's not in play as a school, then a lot of the onus of cost and requirements goes away.
there's no doubt about that. If you turn that building into what was being looked at as what Woodward would turn into, a town building to do other things, it would certainly be less cost than rebuilding as a school. There's no doubt about that too. That's a fact.
Yeah, I'm just hung up on this 60 and 60 is a low number, right?
It could be. So
Yeah.
I'm not telling you I'm not with you on this. That number scares me too. Really scares me. So the idea that this is a fait accompli, that's the one we're going to do, is just not true. In the end, I hope that we can accomplish what we need to accomplish with less money, but we've got to do the feasibility study to figure that out. So if we can't get this feasibility study funded now, the MSBA process starts in August. That's when they're starting to work with us. That's where we are on the schedule. We won't have a special before August. There's no way we can do that in the summer. We're not going to do a special. I don't see how with everybody gone. So I really think we are going to end up with no project funded at all if we don't at least fund this first phase and see where this leads to, and then make the decision on what the actual project should look like once we've got the information that will be provided.
I think, the temperature of the hall is going to be very important, right? And maybe this is something, that the moderator could help us with. If the hall has zero appetite for a $60 million project, then we shouldn't spend $1 million right now.
Eric, Marcy, have you guys had any change of heart since we voted?
I haven't, Kathy, but I want to go through Jason's email since I didn't get to read it yet. So
I'm going to forward that to you guys right now. So why don't you read it? Because we're not going to vote tonight. We're not going to re-vote tonight. We're going to wait till we meet at Algonquin to re-vote when all 7 are here. Okay. We'll send a spreadsheet that shows the projects that other towns have done for their schools recently, so you can see where the numbers come from. You'll see where I did the mean and the median at the bottom. And then just think more about it. And if you want to talk, one-on-one, I'm happy to answer questions. Just because I was on the committee, so I actually, got it. But I will say the woman who talked to me last night, she had her facts. And for everything that the committee had concluded were the pros of doing it the way that's being proposed, which is close Woodward, rehab Neary. She had a pretty good response for why that shouldn't be the case. She's a teacher, taught for a long time, and clearly follows the stuff. So she will probably stand up at town meeting, I bet, and say what she said to me last night.
Which is,
I think, can you calculate the actual estimated net cost after reimbursement?
For the full project?
Feasibility, just a feasibility.
Yeah, we can do that because that's probably helpful. So we think we're going to get, if this goes forward with the MSBA, we think we'll get something like 38% reimbursed from the MSBA eventually. We have to fund it up front. It's got to be fully approved. That's how this works. But then in the end, they would cut us a check for 38% of whatever the cost is.
Feasibility study, correct?
Yeah.
And that in portions of the project too, right? But not
Right,
38%.
my impression wasn't, it's not 38% of the project, right?
No, we're not going to
I had
get
a much
to the
smaller
project
number written
because
down.
they've got a cap on it that is much less than what things cost today. So effectively, we are expecting to get 15 to 20% of the actual construction cost.
Okay. Yeah, that's
When we built the other 3 schools in 2000, 2002, we got 66%. So it's a huge difference in what this one would cost the net cost compared to those for sure. So Tim, to answer your question, this is what she said. She said she thinks Neary should just be fixed. Woodward should stay open as a school. And the townhouse definitely should stay a townhouse with the offices there. She said the idea of spending all the money in the townhouse and then basically, vacating that except for library, it makes no sense to her either. she's all for making sure the seniors are comfortable in whatever we decide for them, but she thinks that's a separate decision. So it was an articulate argument from her. And so I said, I'm not saying that I disagree with you. I'm just saying we need the 950 to be able to figure all this out.
Kathy, I believe you made a comment that was coming out of your and Andrew's follow-up conversations since last time we discussed this, that we could likely get this bid lower, right? Because they want the bigger project, but I don't actually understand. Like,
Mr. Lemieux opined that if we were to, if your issue is you think 950 is too high, but there's a number that you don't think is too high, he thinks that within reason, he says 100 is not going to do it, but he threw out 750. You agree AP is one that might work, but I don't think he was one to go below 750 as far as one that would get you what you needed.
He thinks that it's probably 950 or even more in terms of the amount of time that you're gonna have to do for all the scenarios and different things. But somebody will come in and do it for 950 or maybe even 750 to get their foot in the door on working on the rest of the project. Right, kind of like a loss leader.
right. So I mean, I get that. So my first comment is, why aren't we considering getting more aggressive on the number? But then my counter argument to that is, sorry?
We can. So I'm trying to understand whether, you're against the whole article, period, just in principle, or whether it's the number that bothers you and a lower number would be more appealing. So that's what I'm trying to get to here as far as understanding where you are as far as the opposition, because 1-3 is a pretty significant nay vote. It's not 2-3 or 2-2.
Right. I mean, personally, I mean, it's a big number, right? To me, the size of it has not made, like, the cost has not made sense. You guys are saying, well, now you guys have dug in more, and I trust you guys as pros to say that it's not totally unreasonable, but it's a big number, the town. Now, I guess the other thing too is that if it gives us alternative roadmaps, I mean, I guess padlocking, right? We don't really need a roadmap. We don't need much design work to figure out a padlocking system and some security cameras. But outside of that scenario, if it does potentially give us design work for the other options, I could be swayed there. But I'm just, the things that give me pause if we feel like we can get that number down and we're squeezing everywhere else, then why aren't we squeezing that number? That's a concern. So that may not, that goes through everything. The flip side is, it gives me pause just to hear, well, somebody will come in and as a loss leader, right, and underbid it or do it at a loss, do it lower because they want the bigger work. It gives me concern, is the work going to be biased, right? So again, this is probably just me being uneducated and raising those concerns, but likely will not be the only person with those concerns when we come to town meeting.
You're concerned that what's going to be biased?
The actual feasibility study, right? So if the company coming in is doing it at a loss, right, to produce a study, and their hope is that it gets their foot in the door to then get the contractual work for the actual construction, whatever that road goes, right, that there's some inherent bias in terms of they want to do the bigger project, right? They want a $60-80 million spend.
Yeah, but they're going to be required to basically look at all different permutations of this project by the MSBA. They're going to it's going to be spelled out. We want to see A, B, C, and D. So they may be biased. They may hope that we pick the bigger project because there will be more feed for them, but it won't be their call as to which of those projects we actually end up. I mean, the town meeting is going to decide that.
Right. I mean, I understand it's not their call to decide what project we do, right? But
yeah, so there's a 12-person committee. There's a 12-person committee that's been appointed that has a variety of people. AP is our representative on it currently because no one else wanted to do it, so he agreed to do it. So that 12-person committee, this is their job, is to basically make sure that all this gets done and then come back to town meeting and say, this is what we looked at. These were the costs for the various scenarios. This is the one that we recommend, but here you go, town. What do you want to do?
Yeah, I think it also, MSBA is not going to allow for steering in a certain direction by they have pretty tight controls over that.
How much is MSBA going to mark up the cost of this project with their own requirements?
I don't think that they don't. The problem with MSBA is they're using like $350 or square foot as far as what the cost is to build it. It's $750 a square foot now. So that's where the issue is. So they give us, 38% of half. That's where I'm getting my 15 to 20%. So their cost that they use as far as what they're willing to reimburse are quite unrealistic and just have not grown with the actual increase in cost. And as far as I know, there's no big push to increase that. So we're stuck with them having a cap on what they will reimburse as far as the per square foot cost. They seem to have quite a talented group. They seem to know what they're doing. So they do seem to, be able to add a whole lot of knowledge and value to this process.
Who is going to stand before town meeting and do a song and dance to convince them to spend $60 to $80 million when there's another option on the table to spend nothing?
I don't know. Well, you're assuming that's what that's what the committee will conclude. And we don't know that. So let's assume that they do conclude that still to do that one is 60 and to just rebuild Neary is 50. I'm making up numbers, so they're pretty close, and they may not be. But
I mean, Kathy, there's an option on the table right now. We don't need a study, right? Just use Woodward. Don't use Neary.
Well, Woodward's not big enough to add much to it. So you wouldn't be able to put Neary into Woodward.
You could put part of it into different. What I'm saying is, regardless of what the school district wants, they could do it with the buildings they have minus Neary. They just don't want to because it's not functional for them.
Well, they're also, concerned about what happens if the demographic studies are wrong, and there's more kids than what we projected. You can't add on to Woodward. That's why Neary's picked. So they've never said we can squish Woodward into Neary the way the Neary footprint is now.
Right.
What they've said is, yes, we can consolidate schools, but we need a bigger school to consolidate into. So Neary's going to have to add square footage if we're going to close Woodward.
Yeah, but there's tremendous room to expand at Finn. And there's even room to expand at Trotter. So the argument that we can't expand at Woodward is kind of misleading.
Well, the lady last night said just what you said, just so you know. The reason that Finn wasn't chosen to add, so at one point we were going to we thought that the recommendation was to put second grade at Finn, right? So have pre-K, K 1 and 2, then put 3, 4, and 5 at Neary and keep Charter the way it is. Then Build Back Better was still on the table at that point. And you had universal pre-K that was part of that. So we were concerned about universal pre-K being required and needing more room for pre-K. So that's when the decision was made to not put second grade at Finn, but put 4 grades at Neary. The reason that Charter wasn't chosen, Charter's got room right now. Charter is got tons of extra room right now. The reason Charter wasn't chosen to put 5th grade there is because the educators that were on this committee, which was the superintendent and Keith Lavoie, who has been a principal for many years, said that they just don't believe it's a good thing to put 5th and 8th graders together. So the lady last night said, I disagree with that. You just basically segregate the 5th grade from the others, if you want to do that. So that was her way around that too. So she seemed to agree that you probably don't want to put 5th and 8th graders together.
I would love for Keith or Greg to stand up in front of town meeting and tell them that they need to spend $60 to $80 million so that we can keep 5th and 8th graders apart.
Okay.
I would love it, Kathy. I would record it, and we could play it back at every town meeting. I mean, I don't know what else to say to you. I mean, to me, I'm going to stop talking and put myself on mute.
No, don't stop talking. This is a healthy discussion. I don't want you to stop talking. Because everything you're saying is going to be said by someone at town meeting. So this is good to hear it now. So you're kind of ready and thought through, because this is one that if the vote stands for advisory, 131, and it's on the screen, 131. I'm very confident that someone's going to stand up and say, okay, advisory, tell us why you don't support it. So we're going to have to speak to this one if that vote stands. We may speak to it if the vote doesn't stand, if we were to have a different vote. Let's say Tom and Adam end up vote. We have to agree to revote, right? That's the first thing. Motion to revote this, right? So let's say advisory agrees to revote this on next Wednesday. And then Adam and Tom vote for it. Nobody else changes their mind. And now we've got a 3-3-1, right? We're definitely going to get questions like that too. So we're going to get questions if I think anyway. So having this discussion tonight is good because I think it flushes out some of the arguments that are going to be made. So we're ready to do them. So the knowledgeable lady last night said, don't worry about 5th and 8th graders. She said that was fine. She also said that one of the reasons that the educators want to consolidate into 3 is it's one less transition for kids. And because the transitions are stressful on kids. She said that's incorrect too. This is one person talking. She said that's incorrect too. It's stressful on parents. She said that's what it's stressful on. It's not the kids. She said kids adjust to everything. So she said it's not stressful to kids. It's the parents that have the issue with the many transitions we have in our school system right now.
Kathy, I might not vote. I mean, you guys, I'll certainly go along with the board, but I don't know if I'm going to vote to reopen this one.
Okay.
And if you want to talk offline, I'm happy to do so.
Well, why don't we? Let me at least send you what we got. Send you Jason's email. My guess is he's going to want to talk to you too. Okay, he's chair of the NERI committee, the study committee. All right, so I think enough for that. We got a plan for that one, so we'll see what happens next Wednesday when the other 2 are here. All right, so the first thing we got to do is agree to revote it, and if we do, then we will revote. If not, we won't. Okay. Are you still thinking, Tim? Are you done?
I'm done.
Okay.
You've heard enough of me.
I'm done. Okay. I think that's it, other than talking about Patty's 2 articles. So let's talk about 33 first, which is the road supervision. So Marcy, what do you think?
Well, I think I kind of said everything already, but I definitely think something is needed. I still don't understand why, Public Works Planning Board isn't implemented. I do agree with you guys that a report by advisory is going to be after the fact. So it may not be, it would, I think it'd still be helpful, but I don't know if it really gets at the intent. I think something has to be done. So that's kind of my position tonight,
AP?
Yeah, I'd agree with Marcy, but I just don't think that necessarily this article achieves what the piece is. And if it's passed, I mean, sure, we can send a report that pulls all the expenditures out of those accounts and sends it to town meeting, but I don't know if it's really necessary, but.
Eric?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, as written in the warrant article, right? I mean, one can't be supported just because we know that we legally, we can't sit on this, committee, and I'm supportive of the spirit.
This is not a committee. This is the one where she wants advisory to write a report.
Sorry. We're just talking about
town meeting.
this.
So the committee's the next one.
Sorry, I was just lumping them both together as I'm looking at them on my other screen. So
This is
sorry.
33.
So for strictly for 33, I'm happy to do it. I'm just like, I'm not a fan of putting extra copy on paper for the sake of putting extra copy on paper. So I think if you put me to a vote right now, I'd say I don't support it. I'm supportive of the spirit behind it. I think it's great work we can do. I just don't think it's going to change anything, and I don't want to put extra pen to paper for it.
Timothy?
Yeah, I'm dead set against it.
So I don't support the articles written either, because I don't think it accomplishes what she wants to accomplish. I appreciate what she's trying to do here. And I think the better answer is to take what efforts have to be made to reinvigorate the Public Works Planning Board. And then the backup plan is, if you can't do that, then capital is going to basically assume oversight of all DPW capital projects, which includes the annual road work. So they will basically vet the roads that she's proposing to fix next. I've talked to Jason Malinowski about, looking into the software that we've heard about that, Lexington has, that basically goes out and measures, the road, knows what needs to be done to it, can cost it out, can prioritize what needs to be done. So I do think that all of the focus on this project is going to result in a much better process as far as the oversight of DPW capital projects, especially the roads, go. So I don't think you need a report. I don't think you need advisory to write a report to basically talk about all of this. I still disagree slightly with my colleagues as far as what we've got the right to get, as far as the information. But I think the right way to do it is to make sure there's oversight of the project before it happens, instead of writing a report after it happens and it's too late to do anything about it. And if the two people that are up 6/30/22 don't want to participate in a vibrant, active committee, then they shouldn't be reappointed. They should be taught, they should be asked the question. So Mr. Semino should ask his appointee, and the planning board should ask their appointee. And if the answer is not what they want to hear, then they shouldn't be reappointed. Simple. I mean, there's been many times, or several times, that people have not been reappointed for various reasons. That's not that unusual. Mr. Semino has not reappointed people in the past. Advisory is one that he didn't report people to a few years ago. To me, that's a better answer than this article.
Yep, I think for me too, I don't think it fits in a bylaw.
Yeah.
I think if it was more of an advisory kind of thing, or a request kind of thing, I'd be more proud to vote for it. But a permanent bylaw is just very permanent.
Kathy, don't you think this is something maybe the select board could implement as a policy for their department?
I do.
Yeah. And they
I think there's a solution here.
I do too. I think you're
But-
I
right.
completely agree with that. And also the project based. I mean, one thing Patty pointed out, it was my frustration when we met with DPW, which you can't nail down anything. It's all big pockets of money, or big, buckets of money, I should say. I think that is really the brilliance of what she has written there. Although, we have discussed some of the limitations with that. So if that could be accomplished, through select board, that would be wonderful with a policy.
Okay. All right. So I think we're ready to vote. As Patty is still in the audience, so she sees what we're saying, or hears what we're saying. So AP, you want to make a motion on Article 33?
I move that the advisory committee supports Article 33 as written in the warrant.
Second.
Second.
Okay. So Tim, second, and Claire. So any further discussion? Roll call vote. Eric.
Aye.
Cook is nay. AP.
Nay.
Marcy.
Nay.
Tim.
Nay.
Okay, 0-5. But we'll be ready to add some color to this at town meeting after Patty presents the article. Okay, so 0-5 on that one. Okay, now number 34, which is the formation of a new pilot committee that would consist of people from various committees, and then 2 or 3 at-large taxpayers. AP?
I just don't, again, think that a standing committee of people appointed is who you want to be doing this effort. I think, between advisory, select board, town administration, they can work on most of the stuff. I think we've all done a lot of this, or at least I have, understand a lot of the pieces of this. It's a very delicate thing that, the select board, I think, as the people that can enter into agreement should handle, and up to them to figure out how they want to pursue that.
Marcy?
Yeah, I mean, this is one I'm supportive of, for sure. I think something, it's like I said before, I think we appoint committees for lesser things. And I think more of a collaborative, supportive kind of mindset, strategic plan, knowing what other towns do, bringing information forward, and still letting, perhaps if the motion is, if it's amended on town floor to include select board, they should still be the leader of that and the negotiator, if you will, in the role they're in. But I do think that this could be a supportive committee.
Eric?
Yeah, I'm with Andrew on this, and especially as I think we've got very vacant, but we have potentially the committee available to address this. I'm not supportive. I think it's delicate, and just leave it at that. I agree with Andrew's position.
Timothy?
I would agree with Eric with what Eric just said. I don't know how, this is more from a practical perspective. I don't know how this is going to work if we have this committee trying to negotiate with the schools and then the select board might be doing it in parallel. It just doesn't seem like a process that's going to work. So that's why I'm struggling with it.
Yeah, and I guess just to very briefly layer on, again, I'm supportive of the sentiment, meaning that let's continue to crowdsource, work as a community to find the best support and best community partners from these schools that we have in our town. I'm supportive of that. I think that where there's a request here for research, right, and for digging in, great. Is that an ad hoc? Is that just citizens do that together and bring their findings to the select board as information? I mean, these things are all could be done, but the actual negotiating power, to me, I'm not supportive of putting that into a new group of people's hands.
So I am, this is a tough one for me. I think that this committee is probably not the right answer. I'm all for, a group being able to support the effort of the select board in continue to develop a strong relationship with each of the private schools, making sure they understand, the consequence of continuing to take taxable property off the tax rolls. But I just don't think this committee is going to necessarily help that effort. Having the information that Patty came up with in 2019 is helpful. Knowing what other towns do, I think is helpful. You see other towns doing a whole lot of the same thing. I think that's a helpful data point to have to discuss. But I don't think you need a committee to get that. I think Mark Purple can pull that together, or he can delegate someone to pull it together. So I think I'm not going to support this, but it will be interesting to see. I'm glad she's doing a presentation at town meeting. It'll be interesting to see what town meeting thinks about this one. She said that in 2019, a lot of the crowd had left. I don't remember the crowd being really small by the time it got to this one. And I thought it passed pretty handily, but maybe I'm wrong. So I guess we'll see. Okay, so AP, you want to make a motion on 34?
I move that the advisory committee supports Article 34 as written in the warrant.
Second.
Okay, Tim seconded. So any further discussion? So Eric?
Nay.
AP,
Nay.
Marcy,
Aye.
Tim,
Nay.
and Cook is nay. So that Claire is 1-4 with Marcy being the yay. Okay. All righty. Is everybody keeping up with all the discussion as far as the trees article? I mean, Beth Milo has written a lot about it on the blog. So I just encourage everybody to keep reading so that when we actually vote at town meeting, you've got as much information as possible. It seems to me that the criticism of it is basically around kind of two areas. One is the power of the tree warden. There's concern about that, and the cost of the tree warden. Where's it coming from? Now you've got a $4,000 stipend in the SAP to pay for it. So it looks like people are concerned about, where the money is going to come from to contract with a tree warden outside. Andrew scared us last time with what looks like the cost of a tree warden as far as the hourly rate goes. So that's one of the issues. And then the other one is what Andrew brought up, which is, basically making people get a, permit for anything they want to do in their own yard that is covered, within the drip line of the trees. I've got two people that have come and told me about that. They're very concerned about that one. They've got a tree that they actually have a good example of in their yard that they think they shouldn't have to apply to do things under. So select board voted 1-4 to not support it. Also voted 1-4 not to support scenic roads. We supported scenic roads, except for AP. So I think the better way to do trees is just to wait till we get there next Wednesday, discuss it again. We may be able to vote before town meeting, but I think everybody's just got to make sure they've grasped that one because it's complicated as far as the nuances of it. Scenic roads is actually fairly complicated. I don't think anyone's planning on amending scenic roads and actually substituting certain roads. So I think it's either going to pass the way it is or it's not going to pass. Tim, any comment on either one?
I'll probably just vote with the board on this one.
The select board?
No, you guys.
All right, that's okay.
I mean, I like it. I like it. I acknowledge the concerns.
Yep. So I think I'm going to support it, but I'm not sure. I'm 60-40, whatever. So AP, what's your inclination on trees?
As written, I cannot support it. It needs a lot of work. It should be postponed. I'm for a tree policy, but this isn't the one. This is reminiscent of the first draft at the noise bylaw. It's just very heavy-handed in one direction without a lot of input from, differing opinions. And I think it needs a subcommittee, just like the noise bylaw committee, to look at it further and come up with more pieces.
Well, and there's already, it's not like there's nothing there to begin with. We're not going from 0 to 100, right? There's already state laws that provide the backbone. There's only 101, I believe, other towns and cities that have a separate trees bylaw. So we're still in the majority by not even doing anything. So I don't know, Marcy, what's your inclination?
My inclination is to go with the planning board on this one and support it. I'm going to review it a little bit more, and like you, Kathy, I'm going to consider it. But if I was voting tonight, probably vote yes.
Eric?
Somewhere between you and Andrew. I'm on the fence. I'm going to spend some time reading up more. I've got some concerns. I do think it just needs to be postponed or studied farther.
So Tim, you may have a 2-2 vote to decide who to go with. All right, so the other two will get a vote on this one too. So anyway, this is the one that I think is, besides the last 4, this one probably is going to enter most of the discussion. And I think it could devolve into a very confusing discussion too if planning board's not very succinct with their answers in explaining this, so we'll have to see. AP, did they say they're actually going to do a presentation on this one? Do you know?
Mimi did say that at our last meeting.
She did say that?
I think she did. And they're gonna have a handout, I think.
All right, so I guess we'll see. Okay, so last thing is the advisory written report. So I've got it mostly drafted. Some of it's boilerplate, so the boilerplate stuff I didn't change. So it just explains how we work, whatever. Tim, I left the IT section in from last year. I think it's worth being in there again. So, so I'm going to send it to Tim and AP tomorrow to edit. Then they'll say, what?
I was just gonna say, Kathy, I don't know if Tim, I don't know if you caught the selectmen's meeting the other day, but the IT specialist decided not to join in the end. So we're still looking for a person.
Yep. So we still have a one-person IT department, right? And have had now for a year. So we didn't have anybody for 5 months. Now we've had one for a year. So
At least we should see a big turn back, right, Kathy?
we should. We should absolutely. That position never got filled, so should be turned back. Okay, so you guys, everybody else should see the report no later than Saturday morning. So if you could spend the weekend, not the whole weekend, obviously, but just take the weekend, look at it, and then supply any substantive comments back to me directly. Nobody else. Don't copy anybody on what you send back. Just send it back to me. I will incorporate everything and then recirculate it on Monday and basically say, here it is. Call me directly if you got an issue with it. Judy Betts, who used to be on our committee, she will edit it for us, make sure all the T's are crossed, I's are dotted, punctuation's correct, everything's spelled. And then the plan is to have it on the town website, hopefully by the end of day Monday, and to my Southborough on Monday. And then we hand it out at the meeting on Wednesday. Okay. All right. So I think that is all for tonight. We've already talked about the schedule as far as next Wednesday and Thursday. There's a chance it's going to be one night. I think it all depends on maybe the trees article in the last 4 as far as how long they go. So I think it's easily done in 2 nights. Unless
Kathy,
someone,
did they have Paul's pre-town meeting, or is that next week?
no, they had it and we weren't invited. So I actually I had an issue with that, just so you know. And Paul said, Kathy, you know, he said, you know, in the past, the select board have kind of taken over this, and I didn't think that was right. So I've taken it over, and I only invited those that sponsored articles. Because I called Brian, I said, when's pre-town meeting? He said, it was Preacher's Day. I said, well, what happened? So I went back to my emails and thinking I'd missed an email and it wasn't there. So I called Mr. Semino and said, why did you not invite your advisory committee to this meeting? He said, because you're not an article sponsor. That's all I invited. So don't know who else was there, but that's what he said. I still think we should have been there, but we weren't. Too late now. So he heard me. So my guess is you'll be invited next year. I would hope you should be. All right. Okay, so any public comment from Mr. Miller? Okay, so can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Kathy,
Yes,
sorry. I mean, I know it's late. I thought there was a discussion. Are we assigning?
oh, yes, thank you, Eric,
the
thank
yay
you.
or the nay? so to
Yes,
speak?
yes, sorry.
No,
Okay,
I don't
so
know.
I just
I
think you gotta be
withdraw, I
ready.
withdraw my motion.
Yeah,
Sorry,
please
sorry,
withdraw
Andrew.
it. Okay, withdraw it for a moment. We can do this quickly. Okay, so I think we've got to be ready on certain articles to basically explain the split vote. The first one's going to be the easement one, where it was 5-2 vote. Marcy and I voted nay, the other 5 voted yay. So Marcy, you and I need to decide who wants to defend the nay vote on that one. So I'm giving you first choice.
I mean, I think I know what we both feel. I mean, I'm happy to present it, or you can, Kathy. I mean, when I
Well,
spoke to you about it,
I'd love
either
to
way.
hear from you. They're gonna,
Okay.
I'm doing the report, so I'd
Sure.
love for you to do that. Okay, so you'll do that one.
Okay.
And then of the three that are here with the yays, who wants to be the yayer?
I think any of us is good. I mean, I think we all kind of had the same opinion that an easement is good.
Okay, so
Say
Somebody
exactly
volunteer.
that, Andrew. Easement good.
Easement good,
easement good.
no easement bad,
Okay,
you know.
we're done. Okay, so someone raise your hand.
I think Tim would be good at this one.
Ah.
I nominate Tim.
Okay, Mr. Martell has been nominated or drafted, I guess. Is
Not a lot to say about this one, Kathy.
I know.
Now, the town, I mean, we spent money to do work on land. It's good that we either own it or have an easement. I mean, this,
and- and-
Anytime anybody wants to give you a free easement on their property, why not?
Okay,
yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. There's certainly an argument against it based upon the facts of the case, but the argument for seems a little bit shorter.
I don't disagree with it. I just want a chance to basically express a disapproval of the process. It's gonna, I think, well, I don't know what's gonna pass. We'll see. It's got to take 2/3, so probably depends on what others say. So we'll see. So I definitely want to Marcia to have our say as far as the NA piece.
I
Okay,
mean,
so there's that one.
I agree with your disapproval of the process while still wanting the easement. I don't know how to.
So
express
Tim,
that.
if there wasn't a license agreement that would be the backstop here, I might not do this. Because then what we would, we would have a problem, right? You have to go to St. Mark's and say, give it to us. But we've been told that the license agreements would still suffice if the easements don't pass.
That's not true.
Well, Jay Tellerman is saying it's true.
I read it, and in the license agreement, it's contingent upon the easement existing.
So Marcy, you and I should
Yeah.
talk. Okay, all right.
Yeah, we'll talk. I agree with the process. If you're gonna spend money on land, you should have the agreements worked out before you do that.
And of course, one of Michael
Basically.
Washington's articles is just this, that you should have that before you do anything. The town needs to approve this before you do anything. So we'll see where that one goes. Okay, scenic roads. Andrew, you'll be the nay on that one, right? Ooh. Well, you're the only nay. Okay, who would like to defend scenic roads if we're asked to? And we may not be asked to defend it. We may just have to explain the nay if we do anything. So Eric, you want to do that one?
Sure.
Okay. Don't worry. We'll.
And this is only if somebody stands up and says,
right.
hey, why did
That's right.
advisory?
We're not
do
going to go say, please listen to us. We're just going to, if somebody stands up and says, advisory, please explain your split vote here, we'll be ready and not turn around and look at each other. Okay, so we're trying to act like a well-oiled committee here. Okay, all right, let's see, what else have we got here that we could disagreed on? Noise bylaw. So Marcy, so Adam's not here, right? So let's assign this one to Adam. Okay, so Adam can do the nay on that one.
Yep.
And I'll let him know. Okay, AP, you want to do the yay if you need to?
Sure.
All right, let me go back to my votes. Okay. Marcy, did you vote? You voted nay on trails, right?
Yes.
All right, so you'll have to do, you're
Yep.
the only, so you have to do trails, okay?
Okay.
And I'll defend trails. How about that one? Okay, AP, you think I got them all as far as where we had split votes? I think I
Didn't
did.
we have one on Patty's?
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, so Marcia, you're
me.
gonna be busy. Okay, so you were a yay on 34.
Correct.
Okay, so.
All right.
He didn't
okay.
tell you this ahead of time, right? That you might have to sign up for.
I figured so, Andrew. Yeah, you always have to be able to defend your position, right? Like, if you're gonna take
We will support, we will
take
be
a
there.
stand.
we will be there to support you.
All
Okay, so
right.
Marcy does that one. Tim, you want to do that one too? So I know I'm drafting now, but it's late.
Which one was that? I'm sorry.
This is the pilot committee.
No, yeah.
That's nay for pilot, right?
Yeah, nay for you. Tim would do the yay.
Wait,
Excuse me.
No,
excuse me,
I
other way
do
around.
yay. I do
Marcy's, sorry. Marcy's doing the yay, Tim's doing the nay.
Correct.
Marcy was the nay to the yes.
Yes.
Or
You
the,
know, seriously, if we had every single vote, 7-0, 7-0 all the way through, I mean, I think, different votes are good. It shows that we really have thought through this, and you shouldn't expect there always to be unanimity in a 7-member committee.
and I've always found, Kathy, that anytime we have a differing, it's people were on the fence. Like it was never like blatant in my years here of, somebody felt completely different than each other. It was like, I'm leaning this way, I'm leaning the other way. So that's why it's always good to have that conversation of what your thought process is.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, so I think we've covered the split votes. All right, so now, thank you, Eric, for reminding me. That was a big oversight. Okay, now.
Did we have any split votes on the budget?
Nope.
No? Okay.
Nope. So we voted 0-7 on Board of Health, and then you two abstained from Historic, and that was 5-0. So we did not. Okay. We did not. Okay, now AP.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, second.
second.
Yeah.
All right. Eric,
Aye.
really? Cook is aye. AP,
Aye.
Marcy,
Aye.
Tim.
Aye.
And this is a big deal for me to say aye again. I'm gonna say aye. This is my last real advisory meeting. So after all these years.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
We're gonna miss you, Kathy.
I know, this is unbelievable.
I said my heart's always with advisory, and it will be. Okay, guys, see you at Algonquin. I'll send the room number once I know what it is, and see you at Algonquin at 5 o'clock on Wednesday.
Thank you.
Good night, all.